Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the Squad Goals Podcast, episode 2, in about just as many days. I've, of course, got my co-host and special guest, Seth.
What is up, guys? Good to be back.
And we got another co-host, special guest, our cousin, Simon, appearing for the first time. He's on phone. Say hello, Simone.
What is good?
Alrighty, so we are here for an exciting episode. We have some international games that have played and some international games that have yet to be played. So we're going to be doing some results analysis on a couple of the games that have played, today, Thursday, and Wednesday. And then we will be predicting some games that are going on over the weekend.
That sounds great.
So we're going to start with where most of you guys are from, the United States of America. The United States had a game Wednesday night against Morocco. Seth, that was a pretty successful night for the Americans, wouldn't you say so?
It really was. I was not expecting a 3-0 result for the USA there.
Trace Acero.
Yeah, I mean, Morocco they're a tough team. They are a very tough team. I mean, this is a team that went 6-0 in World Cup qualifying, 20 goals, only 1 goal against. They're, I believe, 24th ranked in the FIFA World Rankings. I mean, one of the best African nations. Like, I really thought this was going to be more of a battle, but we kind of swept them. Like, it was a bit easier than I expected. And I mean, God, you just can't talk enough about Christian Pulisic.
Dude's
what
a
player he is, man. Just, I mean, I know you were watching the game with me. That world-class touch and that world-class assist to Brendan Aronson to open up the scoring, that was just magical. What a player we have in him, honestly. Just such a good player. And we had a lot of players that got their first cap the other day. We had Haji Wright, who scored the penalty, which was gifted from Pulisic. That was very nice of the captain to do.
Of course.
And we had Joe Scaly, who made his first appearance at right back, I believe. Right or left back, I can't remember.
Right.
And Malik Tillman from Bayern Munich. Young kid, had a couple senior caps for Bayern Munich.
Yeah.
All getting their first caps. They looked very good. It's good that we're continuing this youth route and we're building more and more youth talent into our system. It's really good, especially to the build up to the World Cup. And just a few players I just want to shout out from the performance. Brendan Aronson, man, him in the midfield, what a player. That dude is a machine. He was just everywhere. He got the first goal. He has heart. He just doesn't give up. He has heart. Timothy Weah, great strike for the second goal outside of the box. What a player for Lille. Great player. Also, Yunus Musa. I told you guys in the last podcast to watch out for this player. He just adds
ran through the entire midfield.
I'm telling you, he just adds a different element to this team. It is unbelievable, the strength, the quality on the ball he has. He is just something that the United States hasn't had in the midfield for quite a while. Right. And of course you have Tyler Adams from Leipzig, just also brings that quality on the ball as well. We got to see Weston McKennie for 20 minutes coming back from that broken foot, the Juventus man. It was great to see him back on the ball, back on the pitch, playing once again. Yeah. And yeah, just a couple other players I want to shout out. Luca De La Torre, great player coming off the bench for us, really good in possession.
Dude also has pace, yeah.
Very good pace, yeah. Also, Matt Turner, dude. Once again, with just the great saves, he has just become like a staple for the United States, just making save after save. Like,
I find it hilarious how it almost seems easier for him to keep clean sheets in international games than he does against our Club Revolution team.
It really does. It really does. And yeah, I'm just
blown away with their performance.
I really am. And just a couple of stats here from that game. We had 53% possession, 11 shots, 10 of those 11 shots were on target.
Mm-hmm.
Pretty impressive. Pretty impressive there. Not so impressive for Morocco. 22 shots, 8 on target. A lot of their shots were very poor. Blasted right over the crossbar multiple times. And they also missed a penalty kick, which hit the crossbar. They missed a penalty kick.
A penalty kick that shouldn't have been awarded.
Yeah. I mean, the ball doesn't lie.
That is true.
That was good. And this is a question for I actually have for both you and Simone here.
Question for the crowd. Okay, Here we go.
So, and the audience, you guys, if you want to comment about it. So, is Morocco in trouble for the World Cup after this performance against the U.S. as they played their A team? Morocco was at full strength. They played their A team. We played most of our A team, but we were missing a few pieces.
Right. We don't have Gio Reyna or
exactly. We were missing a few pieces, but Morocco was playing full A team. Hakimi and everyone. So I just want to hear your guys' thoughts. Do you think they're in trouble after that performance, after dominating in Africa for so long, and then losing to the USA like that?
Okay, I'm going to hand this off to Simone, but before I do, let me just get this right. Morocco's in the group in the World Cup. They're with Belgium, Canada, and Japan. Does that sound right?
Belgium, Canada, and Croatia.
Oh, Croatia. Okay. Simone, that's their group. Belgium, Canada, Croatia, and that is the group Morocco's in. How do you feel about Morocco after Seth, gave everything about the game?
Morocco's a really interesting team. So I know that Seth mentioned their stats in the World Cup qualifiers, how they went 6-0. It's obviously an impressive run. But when you look at the teams that they played against, it's not that surprising. They played against Guinea, Sudan, and I'm not trying to pronounce this last one, but Guinea-Bissau.
Yeah,
right.
These are very small teams, like that. I guarantee most of the people listening to this podcast haven't even heard about. And so I'm looking at the stats right now, and none of these other teams, except for Guinea-Bissau, have won a game in the qualifier matches. They won one game. Every other game ended in a loss or a draw.
Right.
So 2 of these teams that are in this group didn't even win a single game. Guinea and Sudan went 0-3-3 and 0-4-2.
Right.
So it's like, it's impressive for Morocco to have won every single game, but what team wouldn't do that? So I think that Morocco kind of got their hopes up by winning against some of these really low level teams. So I think they're in a lot of trouble. They can't even compete against the U.S., not even at its full strength. If they're going to be playing against Canada, Croatia, and what was the other team?
Belgium.
Belgium. Oh my gosh, the worst for last.
Yeah, will they even get out of the group? That's the real question.
Getting out of the group is, I don't know, that's in God's hand. They're up time getting out of the group stage.
So Simone, I have a question for you. So off of that, do you think Morocco is overrated?
I think that people just weren't really paying attention to their early games. It's one thing to hear the stat they've won 6 games in a row, and it's one thing to actually watch those games that they played.
Right.
And sure, they got a good goal differential. They only got one goal scored against them, but there's teams in the world that they wouldn't have gotten scored on once.
Right.
I watched a little bit of the Japan qualifier matches, and they were beating teams 10-0.
Yeah, it was bad.
When they get an easy team like that, they just dominate. So I'm not comparing Morocco to Japan by any means, but if you're playing against teams at that low and you're, they didn't struggle, but it's expected. So I do think that they are a little overrated just because of the stat itself.
Yeah, I agree. I definitely agree with that.
Right. Yeah, I really wonder how it would have been if they... I mean, I'm not entirely sure if they did, but if they had played games against, Egypt and Nigeria and...
Senegal,
those top African teams.
It definitely could have been different.
How they got into the World Cup without having to face either of them, I have no idea.
But it's just how it's set up in Africa. That's just how it is.
But hey, credits to them for making the World Cup anyway. We're not bashing them by any means. We were just a little shocked at the performance.
Yeah, we just thought it would be a closer game. That's all. They could completely surprise us and just...
Yeah, if they win their group in FIFA World Cup, then we'll shut our mouths for good.
We will.
But, all right, so the USA has another game going on this Sunday. Is that correct?
They do. Another friendly. This one should be even more interesting than the last.
Who's their opponent? Tell the crowd.
So, on Sunday, it is USA versus Uruguay.
Oh, boy. South American team. This is crazy.
So this one is interesting. So... I'm just going to tell you guys my prediction, just to start. I'm going with a 1-1 draw here between USA and Uruguay. So, personally, I think Uruguay will be a much better test for the U.S. Going into the World Cup, because Uruguay is the type of team that they're going to see at the World Cup, especially if they get out of the group stage. Like, they're already going to see a team like Uruguay and England, who's even a better version, per se. And then if they get to that round of 16, potentially quarterfinal,
they might face the Netherlands if they make round of 16.
You're looking at a Uruguay-like team. So I think this is going to be a very tough match for them. But if they play how they did against Morocco, they definitely have a chance. If they keep the game free-flowing, if they capitalize off counterattacks, I definitely think they have a good chance. What is definitely in our favor is I saw that Luis Suarez will not be in this game, so that definitely helps the USA a lot, because he is a force for just any team he's a part of, especially Uruguay.
Oh yeah.
He was absolutely dominant for Uruguay in their World Cup qualifying campaign. I think he scored 8 goals in World Cup qualifying, and he actually passed Messi for all-time World Cup qualifying goals. With I think he scored his 29th against Chile. Wow. So Luis Suarez is no joke. This dude has been an elite striker for a long time. He's definitely going to help Uruguay big time in the World Cup. But as a USA fan, thank God that he will not be playing on Sunday. But they also have another world-class striker in Edison Cavani. He's not as good. He's not as good as Suarez. That's my opinion. You guys can debate that in the comments, but that is my opinion. He's still a good striker in my opinion, but I don't think he's Suarez level. He should be playing on Sunday. He's still going to pose a big threat. Just a few other players from Uruguay that I want to note that are going to be big threats. Valverde from Real Madrid. This dude is a big threat. Also, Diego Rossi and Bentancur are also going to be big threats there. And, of course, the man himself, Godin, in the defense, holding it down for Uruguay. He'll be there. And just to give some stats about Uruguay here, so they finished third in World Cup qualifying, only behind Brazil and Argentina. So very impressive. Uruguay was one of those teams that was struggling early in the qualifying campaign, but then it started clicking for them. Everything just started clicking. They finished with 8 wins, 4 draws, and 6 losses in 18 games. So not the best, but it was enough to get them to the World Cup, which is all that matters. Interesting stat. They actually, in those 18 games, they had 22 goals for and 22 goals against.
Okay, so they evened out.
So they had a 0 goal differential, which I thought was kind of funny. But, they got to where they had to be. So, and in their last World Cup qualifying game against Chile, which I believe they won 2-0, they had 45% possession, 15 shots, 6 on target. So this is a team that, doesn't need to dominate the ball, have possession all the time to win. They don't really have the midfield to do that per se.
Right.
But they have the attackers, which is why this team is lethal on the counterattack. You get that ball over the top to Cavani or Suarez if he's playing, and it's over. So this team is very dangerous, and I think it's going to be pose a really good threat for the USA, and I think it's going to be a perfect challenge for them. But I think the USA has the ability to,
to contain them,
to just stand up to them and be able to play out a draw at least. I really think this game could go either way. It wouldn't surprise me if Uruguay won this game.
Yeah.
Honestly, it would shock me a little bit more, but it still wouldn't surprise me if the USA won this game. But that's why I'm going with a draw. I think that's the most likely scenario. I think that'd be a really good result for the USA, especially as they try out some new pieces and new players.
Right.
But I'd like to get you and Simone's take on that game.
That would be a pretty epic game. USA versus Uruguay, and I would be very shocked. I think I have the same opinions as you. I did predict 1-1 draw before this podcast started, but let's say if USA does to Uruguay what they did to Morocco, imagine a 3-0 win. Like that probably will not happen as much, but that. Oh my lord, that would be crazy. Simone, you are a lot more familiar with South American football than we are. What is your opinions on Uruguay, and how do you think the U.S. will stack up to them?
Oh man, well, as much beef as I have with Uruguay as a part Peruvian, they're an amazing team, especially lately. They ended up passing both Peru and Ecuador in the World Cup qualifiers. They were in fifth place, and I thought that Peru was going to be able to write them out with that last game, but then Uruguay ended up beating us 1-0 in the World Cup qualifiers, and they jump from fifth to third, leaving Peru with its little spot against who knows yet.
Yeah.
But
we'll figure that out later.
Yeah.
We'll talk about that later. But yeah, going back to Uruguay, their last, I believe it was 4 games against Chile, Peru, Venezuela, and Paraguay.
Right.
They've gone and won all 4 of those games. Their last game, the last game that they lost was in November of 21. Sorry.
Mm-hmm.
So these last 4 games that they played in the World Cup qualifiers, they really popped off. They really pulled themselves back into the competition, and I think that having Federico Valverde as
what a player.
Champions League winner, coming off that high stool, that all that emotion, I feel like he's going to perform extraordinarily well in these next 2 games that they have coming up. They're playing tonight as well, I believe, against Mexico.
They are. Yeah, they're playing as we're recording. We're not able to see it, but you guys will know the result as this podcast gets posted. So that'll be an interesting game to test.
That will definitely be a very interesting game, because if Uruguay can't break through Mexico's defense, then that completely throws what I'm about to say, to shambles. Because I actually think Uruguay is going to end up beating the United States 2-1.
Right.
I think the United States is going to put up a really valiant effort, and as much as I want the U.S. to beat Uruguay, I think that Uruguay.
That makes 3 of us.
Look, the people that we haven't really mentioned, I know Seth mentioned most of the players like Luis Suarez, Edison Cavani, but you also have to add Fernando Muslera, who is their goalkeeper, who's been their goalkeeper for over a decade now. And this guy, he's made a few mistakes in the past, but overall,
he is solid.
Goalkeeper. Very, very solid goalkeeper. Probably one of the best that's going to be in the World Cup, in my opinion. I would say top 10 for sure.
Definitely underrated for sure, yeah.
We also have Araujo from Barcelona.
Yep.
He's making a name for himself there. He's a pretty decent defender.
Right.
You have solid forwards, you have solid defenders, and then obviously solid midfielders with Valverde and Elistri and all these other players. The one player that we didn't mention, and I think it would be just a crime to not mention him in this podcast, is Darwin Núñez. So he's been playing for Benfica for a couple of years now, I believe. I'm not exactly sure how long. I think 2020.
That is true. Yep.
Sounds about right.
22 years old. I think he was born in 1999. And yeah, let me pull that up. Yeah,
that is wild.
So he's a very young player. He's nowhere close to his prime yet. But the way he's playing, he's on his way to get there. He's an amazing player for Benfica.
Super talented.
And right now, it looks like there's rumors for him to even go to the likes of Manchester United or Liverpool. So
that is what I've heard. Yes.
To the Premier League.
Yes.
Would be an amazing move for him, and I think that he's also going to be a real problem for the United States. He's a great forward, I'm very excited to see how he's going to play.
Yeah.
And I think that it's going to be a tough match for both teams. The United States came out strong. That's definitely, Uruguayans are definitely watching that match thinking, Jesus Christ, I did not think they were going to beat them by that much.
Right. No one did.
For sure.
But I really think that this game against Mexico is going to really determine it. I think that if Uruguay can't beat Mexico, then there's no possible way they're beating the United States, because right now, the United States has bested Mexico in multiple games.
Right.
But this is kind of like a preview to the game that we're going to see with USA, because, it's literally the team that the United States has beaten time and time again.
Yeah, so especially recently.
If beat Mexico, then the United States is in trouble. But if they can't, then, I think that my prediction will have to change. But yeah, we'll see tonight. We'll see how that goes.
Yeah, we're all very excited for USA Uruguay. That's gonna be a good one, and I think the match will pretty much be determined based on how the coaches or managers, however you want to call them, how they send out their players. If they send out like their top squads, or if they do what they do what the USA did, and they send out like first timers.
Yeah, so I think for the most part, both teams are going to be sending out very close to A squads here, because
B+, A- squads. Like
probably closer to A-, maybe even A+. Like it's, and the reason I say that is because after this window, this international window, there's not many games left for these teams before the World Cup. So it doesn't give managers like many more opportunities to try and figure out, what's my best team here? Let me see how my best team plays heading into the World Cup. So I think it'll be very close to A team for both squads. And just going off of one of the players that Simone brought up, Darwin Nunez, very talented kid. And as a Manchester United fan, I really hope he can come to our club. That would be great. I just kind of hope Uruguay can unlock his potential even more, because I've noticed he's kind of been coming off the bench a lot lately, and I personally think he's worthy of a starting spot on that team. And definitely a very talented kid, and can probably combine well with Suarez and Cavani and Valverde really well, especially Valverde. But yeah, this Uruguay squad, very scary, and definitely can't take them lightly.
Oh yeah, that'll be an exciting game for Sunday. So that will be on Sunday for you guys to watch. Very exciting matchup for USA and the Uruguayans too, because a true test. You don't get to see CONCACAF versus South American too often, or CONMEBOL, I should say.
Right.
But it's that time to move across the pond again.
Back across the pond. Here we go.
We're going to Europe for the first few games in the Nations League. All right, Simone, Seth, let's get ready to talk about Nations League. We've had a couple of games happen as of this podcast recording. We're going to start off with the kickoff game, Poland versus Wales, a game that we unfortunately couldn't watch live due to television broadcast rights issues. Freaking Fubo TV, but regardless, we were still able to catch highlights. And Seth, how did you feel about Poland defeating Wales 2-1 in the Nations League?
Well, so if you remember from the first episode, I believe I predicted a 2-2 draw. So
right.
I was pretty close with Poland winning 2-1, but I was also under the impression that Gareth Bale was going to be playing in this game.
That's fair.
And Gareth Bale just did not play. So that I think I would have actually changed my score prediction to 2-1 Poland if that was the case. But that's okay. I said what I said, so I'm not going to take it back or anything.
That's fair. Yeah.
But as a Polak, I'm very excited and very happy to see Poland win 2-1.
So 3 points on the board.
Yes, but I also understand that Wales was not playing their A team.
True.
They rested Gareth Bale, they rested Ben Davies, they rested Aaron Ramsey. They're resting some big veteran players for Sunday's match against Ukraine, because obviously that's the more important match. So they're trying to get to the World Cup.
Yeah.
They're trying to get to the World Cup. So, but that doesn't matter. We got the 3 points. Poland got the 3 points. They played their A team. Just a few stats about the game. Poland had 55% possession with 15 shots, 3 on target. Wales had 45% possession, 14 shots, 2 on target. So pretty even match there.
Oh, yeah.
It was really back and forth. I am surprised that Poland didn't do a little bit more. Lewandowski actually missed quite a few chances, which I was surprised about. It's not like him. Big-time striker like him.
We had one very near miss from our boy Buxa.
Yeah, Adam Buxa too. But man, Lewandowski usually has no problem finding the back of the net.
Right.
And he struggled a little bit this game, but it's one game. You don't get worried about something like that with a player of his quality. But I think this was good for Poland, and I don't think this was too good for Wales, though. And not just for the win and loss reasoning, but I think for Wales, because Poland came from behind to get this win, because Wales started out going up 1-0 in that game.
Right.
Poland came from behind.
I believe all those goals were in the second half, too.
Yeah, they were. I think that just prevented any sort of morale boost for Wales going into Sunday's World Cup qualifying game. if Wales got the win, they'd be feeling really high about just really good about themselves, you know, like, but now,
their opponents, they feel really good about themselves.
But now, yeah, and I mean, Poland will take 3 points any way they can get it, and you know, Wales showed their quality. Like, they weren't bad in that game. Like, they showed the quality they have.
Right.
But that game also showed what Wales is truly focused on. They didn't really care too much about that game. Like they cared enough to like really give Poland like a fight.
Yeah.
But obviously they were resting players, just trying new players. Like they are 100% focused on this World Cup qualifying game, and I don't blame them. This is to go to the World Cup. So I really, and there's plenty of Nations League games to go. One loss isn't going to kill them. They still have a chance to come back and get back to the top of the group. But I think that game really just showed us where Wales, their mindset is, where they are right now. So that's a game that I'm really looking forward to, Wales-Ukraine. But yeah, that Wales-Poland game, it was a good match. It was a good, solid match. And it was good to see Poland come out on top. Both teams missed chances, like I said, but yeah, Poland just, capitalized a little bit more than Wales could.
Yeah, no, it makes sense to me. I'm going to throw a quick question over to Simone about this game before we move on to the next. Simone, if Wales played, everyone that they had, their top A-plus team, do they beat Poland in this game?
Oh, man, that is a question. I really, as much as I want to say that they would have a chance to get Bale on that team, he's their main man.
Right.
I don't think they could. He's not in the form he used to be in. He's still an amazing player, but they didn't even play him in any of the Champions League games this year at Real Madrid. All he was doing was warming the bench. And it's just older now, He's not the same version of himself that he was a few years ago. And if they were playing against Prime Bale, I think that he could have single-handedly won the game for Wales.
Right,
100%. 100%.
But yeah, that he's out of practice. They're not playing him. It's not even the fact that he's old, because it's not. Like, he could still be an amazing player. It's the fact that they're just not playing him,
Right.
And that's why I really liked him at Tottenham. He was getting his playing time. He was playing pretty well for the most part. And then going back to Madrid, it's just they put him right back on the bench, and I honestly don't think it's that fair to him.
Yeah.
But
you got a point there.
That's what it is. He should have gotten that when he could. But regarding the game against the Ukraine, it's really it's a pickle. These teams are pretty evenly matched.
Yeah.
For the most part, they both played very well in their qualifier matchings. Let's see.
That's true.
Match day 10, Wales tied against Belgium, one of the best teams in the world, which is very impressive. And the thing is, Ukraine did the same thing against France in September. These two teams are competing with some of the best teams in the world, and they're not even losing to them. So, I think that they're very evenly matched. The fact that they can tie to these big teams, and they've pretty much gone with a clean sheet, or not clean sheet, but they've gone pretty much unbeaten, except for Wales today, obviously.
Right.
But aside from that, they've both been fairly unbeaten in the qualifying matches, so they were pretty much neck and neck. And I think that it really comes down to, like Seth said, the morale. Like, after that 3-1 win that Ukraine picked up. Was it 3-1?
It was 3-1, yeah.
The 3-1 pick, yeah. After picking up that win against Scotland, I think that they're going to be in a better mindset.
That is true.
They're going to be in a better state. They're going to be ready to, take this game from the Wales. Because after losing to Poland like that, it's heartbreaking. Losing any game after you were the first to score is always going to suck. And the fact that it was so late as well, it's like...
Right.
It takes away from Wales. And they're going to have their top team, they're going to have their A team playing, but I still don't think that's going to be enough to go against Ukraine, because the Ukraine is looking very strong right now, extremely strong, and I think they're going to go quite far in the competition, and, actually, if they end up winning this game.
That's true. Well, Simone, before we get your score prediction, I'm going to have you hold that thought, because we want to get through the Nations League games first, and then we'll get to World Cup qualifying, so hold your thought on the score, but...
Sure.
That's going to be crazy. That'll be a crazy game, though, Wales-Ukraine. We're excited for that one.
Yes.
But Wales did lose to Poland, so that is a little bit disappointing for Wales. Let's move on to the next Nations League game that happened today. Czech Republic, Switzerland. A little bit of a surprising result based on the stats, don't you think, Seth?
Yeah. So in the last episode, I did get the score right, but I picked the wrong team to win. So Czech Republic ended up winning that game 2-1. where I said Switzerland was going to win 2-1. But it really doesn't surprise me. It really, because I told you in the last episode, Czech Republic is just one of those teams that can go against any team in the world, and on any given day, they can win or they can lose.
Right.
Like they're just one of those teams. That's how they're built. And like they can go into France and they could beat France, for instance. But they could also get destroyed by France. Like it's any given day, it would just depend. So that's why this, as strong of a team as Switzerland is, this result doesn't surprise me. And just a few stats here about that game. Czech Republic only had 38% possession. They only had 8 shots, 3 on target, and 2 goals. That's 3 on target.
Pretty crazy.
But what I liked about this game was it was very back and forth. Like, both sides, they created plenty of chances. Both teams were attacking, and it was just so back and forth. The action was really good in that game. Switzerland, they had 62% possession, 15 shots, 7 on target. So they were pressing a little bit more than Czech Republic. But yeah, that doesn't really matter at the end of the day with a team like Czech Republic, because like I said, they only had 3 shots on target. So it only takes those 1 or 2 opportunities. That's all they need, and that's clearly all they needed today to get the job done. And that's just who Czech Republic are. They just fight till the end. They're a team that just won't give up, and they'll push and push and push any team to the limit. So I was a little surprised that Switzerland did not start Shaqiri. He was on the bench. He came off the bench. But I just think he's one of their best players. Yeah, he's a bit out of his prime now and a lot older, but he's still, I think, one of their true leaders, along with Granit Xhaka, and who did start. He did start, but I think having Shaqiri just like in the midfield in that cam position just really like opens up opportunities for Switzerland's wingers and forwards to get wide and get the ball downfield and play good through balls. So I was a little surprised he didn't start, but he did play, but he got subbed in, but it just wasn't enough. Thomas Souček for West Ham on the Czech Republic, great game. He had such a good game. That very underrated midfielder he is for the Czech Republic, but he plays with heart. He plays with passion. He's a tough player. Most of the Czech players are. That's just their culture.
Right.
But no, that was an entertaining game. Two pretty evenly matched teams. I think Switzerland's definitely a better team in terms of talent, but at the end of the day, like I said, Czech Republic, any day, they can beat any team. They just need to create a couple of chances, and they're good at finishing their chances. So this result doesn't surprise me.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy. Czech Republic, Switzerland, that is a crazy result. Simone, I don't know if you have any thoughts about either of these two teams and how they performed today. It wasn't available really to the public to watch, at least here in the Americas, but it was still quite a game nonetheless.
Yeah, I mean, I watched the highlights. I was shocked with the game, actually, because when you're watching the Czech Republic play, they're not the strongest team. Like so said, they have the ability to come back at any time because they're just a counter-attacking team. Mm-hmm. So what I've noticed is that most of their games, they're normally tied with possession with the other team. Like, they might not have more than 50, but they're never going to have less than 40%.
Right.
In most of the games. And this game was the first time in a very long time that I've seen them have such low possession and yet still manage to win the game.
Yeah, usually they're solid in possession. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. That is fair.
And it was a very strange, I don't know, I feel like it was a different tactic, just completely being, like, the manager just decided to try a whole new thing out to see if they could do it and make it work, and it did. And I have a feeling that we might see the Czech Republic playing like this in the future, because they playing with it doesn't. You don't have to control the ball to win the game. Apparently, most
no, that's true. You don't.
Based on this performance, you don't.
Exactly.
The thing is, Peru. I'm not sure who we played against, but a few months ago, Peru did the exact same thing. I think it was to Colombia. Actually, I think that's what got us into the. The fifth place of the World Cup qualifiers, because we beat Colombia. We had one shot on target to Colombia's 22 shots. And we scored the one that we had, and Colombia didn't.
It's what North Macedonia did to Italy, and yada yada.
And it seems like the Czech Republic isn't using this as teams like North Macedonia and Peru were kind of using that they were hoping,
Right.
There was just hope in those games, and there was just luck, and there was just everything going their way. But I think that the Czech Republic was trying to use this as a legitimate strategy,
almost tactically. Yeah,
and it's very, very interesting, because what I've noticed is that all the goals that both teams scored, they relied heavily on the errors of the defenders. So it wasn't build-up play. Every single goal that I saw was because there was some defender made an error.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's kind of what I feel like they're trying to do, is they're just going to let the team that they're playing against dominate the ball, dominate the possession, and then just capitalize on them making one or two mistakes and then taking that as an advantage, It's a very interesting style of play, and I think that it can only get them so far. I think that it was pretty lucky to be in Switzerland, with those stats, and I don't think that they should continue to use it, but it was interesting to see nonetheless.
Yeah, I think, I agree with that, and I think Czech Republic is just one of those teams where I don't think they're really going to get blown out, and they're not going to get destroyed on the stat sheet like a North Macedonia and Italy,
right?
And then win. I think in this game, Switzerland did have the better stats, not by a crazy amount, but they did.
It was noticeable, yeah.
It was noticeable, but it wasn't that badly. It was different when you watch the game, and when watching the highlights, you could tell Czech Republic was playing with a real purpose and
they had
doing what they could to get the ball downfield and score. So good game overall.
Yeah, fun game to watch. So that was that game. We're gonna move on to the final game that was played today against neighboring countries. We were watching this one live.
We were.
Spain versus Portugal. Wow, after a 1-0 lead by Spain in the 25th minute or something around those lines, they held that all the way till somewhere in the 80th minute or so.
It was the 82nd minute. Yeah.
Portugal with a goal to even it up.
Beautiful goal, though.
And it ends 1-1. Seth, I watched this with you live, and you, as a semi-Portugal fan, nearly had a heart attack. So how do you feel? And also, how do you feel about Ronaldo coming off the bench? What are these tactics going on by Portugal this game?
Yeah,
it's a Nations League game.
I got quite a bit to say about this game.
But here we go. Start the timer.
so I'm a big Cristiano Ronaldo fan, and that's why I support him. I support Portugal for that reason. So you already know I was watching this game, of course. Two top 10 ranked teams, neighboring countries, big rivalry. What a game. But I hate to say it, but Spain controlled that game.
Yeah.
Spain really did control that game. They had 60% of the possession, 11 shots, only 2 on target. Portugal had 40% of the possession, 7 shots, 2 on target. So both teams were a bit poor in the shooting department.
Right, the final third didn't seem to go favor either way.
Yeah, but Spain is just... They are a really good possession team. A really good possession team. They have the midfield to do it. Busquets right there in the midfield, able to just play around anyone. And they really just controlled the pace of that game. And a few players I just want to shout out for Spain for having pretty solid performances. Pablo Sarabia and Ferran Torres were very solid for Spain on the wings there. Made some really good runs, was connecting with the midfield. But holy cow, one player that you got to shout out is Gavi. This kid is like the most insane, just the most insane kid I've ever seen. Like
football prodigy, right?
Yeah, like I mean, him and Pedri they are insane. Gavi is 17 years old, by the way. He is 17 years old. He starts for FC Barcelona. He is now starting for Spain. This kid was just bossing the midfield with Busquets today. I couldn't believe it. Like, he is such a good player and is only 17, is going to continue to be a really good player.
Led to that beautiful tiki-taka goal from the
25th minute. That was a really, really pretty tiki-taka goal. Xavi just, he's got that boy right, from in Barcelona. And that clearly is translating at the international level as well. But wow, what a player. I literally wrote in my notes, Gavi is exceptional in all caps. Like, that was like literally one of my notes from the game today. So it was just honestly an honor to see him play. Like, it was really cool. He just so much on the ball. Never stops running. It's just everywhere on the pitch. Reminds me of Brendan Aronson from the USA, but at like a much, much better level.
Right.
So that was cool. But I'll get off Gavi now. I've talked about him for enough. But even though Spain did, I don't want to say dominate the game. I'm going to say they controlled it. They controlled the game, but they didn't dominate because Portugal did create some really good chances. Let's see, Rafael Leao, I think is how you say his name, and Andre Silva. They both were very solid. Especially Rafael Leao, he created some good chances. I don't want to say Andre Silva was very solid. He was okay in place for Ronaldo, but he did have a couple good opportunities. And a couple of the big players for Portugal that I want to talk about, Bruno Fernandes, once again was just okay, and that hurts my heart as a Manchester United fan because he's one of our best players, and he's just been very sluggish lately, both for Manchester United and for Portugal. But I mean, he did have that 2-goal performance against North Macedonia, so that was really good to get them to the World Cup. But just his overall play lately, he just hasn't been as creative as he was when he first came to Manchester United. But I just hope he can find his form again. And another player I just want to shout out before I talk about Cristiano Ronaldo is Bernardo Silva. Bernardo Silva, what a player for Portugal. And I felt bad for him because he is so creative, but he didn't have enough room or time to create these chances. He's a creator. That's what he does. He's somebody on the wing that can take people one-on-one, put in good deliveries, get it to players' feet. Just really good, talented player. But I don't want to say he struggled, but he only struggled because the team overall was struggling. But I don't think he had a bad performance. So
right.
But now, let's talk about Cristiano Ronaldo for a second.
There we go.
Very surprised that he did not get the start. Andre Silva did. He came on in the 60th minute, so he got about a half hour. But he was like a ghost. I couldn't believe it. I was watching the game and I was like, where is Cristiano Ronaldo? He wasn't getting the ball. Players weren't putting in crosses for him. He just, I think the commentator said he had more fouls than touches on the ball or something.
Than chances at goal, they said.
Yeah, but it was ridiculous. He was just nowhere to be seen. I was very shocked because, he's older and he's not prime Ronaldo anymore, but he's a goal scorer.
Right. And
they needed a goal. So I'm very shocked that Portugal didn't get him involved. I mean, kudos to Spain for maybe shutting him down tactically if that was the case. But if you're bringing him on in the 60th minute, you gotta figure out a way to get this man involved. and I was just a little disappointed to see him barely touch the ball and barely be, active in that game. Mm-hmm. So, but honestly, overall, it was a decent game. Not as exciting as I thought. I literally predicted 3-2 Portugal in the first episode, so that just wasn't even close.
Not as high scoring.
No, not even close. So, man. Honestly, it was an okay game. I think it could have been better, entertainment wise.
Right.
But it got the job done. It was decent. I think a draw was fair. I think Spain maybe deserved the win a little bit more, but Portugal's goal was a beauty, so nothing to take away there.
That is fair. Now, I know Simone over here, I know you can't see him, guys, that are watching the podcast right now, but he is chomping at the bit. I can feel it. Simone, these are two high-profile nations going at it. How do you interpret their performances today?
Yeah, I mean, I saw exactly what I expected from Spain. I think they got pretty unlucky not to have won. I think they did deserve to win that game. I think Portugal got very lucky to get that late goal in there.
Right.
I was very disappointed in Portugal's performance.
I agree.
Look, I'm going to start with each individual player. Starting with Bernardo Silva, he is one of my favorite Portuguese players.
Mm-hmm.
I actually pulled up a clip to send it to you, so hopefully you can open it on your end and watch it as I'm talking about him right now. But there's this one clip from October of last year where Bernardo Silva dribbles through the entire Liverpool defense, and hopefully you can show that right now as I'm talking about it, because it's just one of the most impressive pieces of football I've ever seen.
Right.
And that's what I was expecting from him today. He's been playing very well for Man City lately. And again, he didn't really have the time and space, and I think that it was just Spain cutting him out. And if his team isn't there to support him, there's nothing he can do. As much as, he can do that once in a while, but they can't rely on him to do it every single game. It's impossible. And I think that his team wasn't really there for him today. They didn't allow him to be creative enough. Same with Bruno Fernandes. He's been falling off very hard lately. Sorry, Seth. I know he was.
No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong.
But ever since I guess the downfall of Manchester United, once they started performing bad in the Prem, Bernardo Silva just he was part of the reason for it. Honestly, everyone blames Maguire, but it's not just one player, and I think that it doesn't all come down to Bruno Fernandes, as he has had a few good performances, but he's definitely lacking, in my opinion, at the moment.
Yes.
Going on to Rafael Leao, one of my best friends is a diehard Milan fan, and so I know he had high hopes for Leao this game as well. And
he was solid.
Leao is a very promising player. He's a super tall, super fast player, and for a while I thought he was the next Cristiano Ronaldo, but I don't know if I think that after today's game. I was expecting a lot more from him. He made a few good runs. He had a few good chances, but overall it was not impressive at all from Portugal. I haven't seen the final goal. I was only able to watch till halftime. So after I stop speaking, I'm going to finish watching the highlights. But,
Right.
Yeah, I think it was a cross by Cancelo in the 82nd minute to Ricardo Horta, who I think plays for SC Braga, and I think he was the leading goal scorer in the Portuguese league this year with 22 goals. I think that's what the commentator said.
Oh,
so, yeah, it was a nice goal though. It was a very nice cross from Cancelo, but yeah,
Cancelo's a good player.
Yes, he is.
Yeah. Going back to the Ronaldo part, I'm still watching the highlights right now as we speak, and I'm at the 60th minute. I haven't even seen his shirt yet. So,
yeah, he is. Yeah, because Ronaldo got subbed around that time, and
right
it just
around there.
Wasn't as wasn't as flashy, wasn't as front and center as you normally see from Ronaldo. But maybe he's just saving all of his bits and pieces for the World Cup, and then he might shine there. But who knows?
Yeah,
wow.
We'll see.
As you guys were telling me that, actually, I resumed the video just for a second, and I'm glad I did, because I just saw Rafael Leao miss a very easy tap-in in the 58th minute. Yeah. So I'm very disappointed in that performance as well. Overall, very mediocre from Portugal.
Right.
But yeah, switching over to Spain, even though they tied, I think they had a very good performance, and that's gonna lead to a bunch of good things in the future.
Mm-hmm.
Their team's so young, which is why it's
super young.
It's very scary actually to think about it, because everyone remembers how strong and how insanely good 2010 Spain was. Winning the World Cup with the likes of Andres Iniesta, Javi, the entire the legendary defense with Ramos and Puyol, Iker Casillas, not Valdez.
Yeah, 100%.
And, the thing is, I feel like I'm just watching the reincarnation of them.
Yeah,
there's Javi and Pedri, like Seth mentioned. Like, these kids are really good for their age.
Yeah.
And they're only going to get better. And it really feels like we're watching like this, we lost them for a few years. I won't lie. We lost the Spanish midfield for a few years once Iniesta and Javi retired, but these kids are bringing it right back. They're playing insanely good. They're playing some very fast football. They're playing one touch and go, quick dribbles. It's very impressive the way that they're playing, especially at such a young age. And they're getting and better and stronger, and I think that they are, if they don't win the World Cup this year, which I honestly don't think they will. Sorry, I don't want to get into predictions right now, but I feel like it will come in a few years for them, because their team is just incredible.
2026 might be really scary.
Bro, let me tell you, you stole the words right out of my mouth. I was just going to compare Gavi and Pedri to Iniesta and Xavi, because that's like what we're seeing. That's exactly, and like freaking Busquets, who apparently like doesn't age, like is still there with both, like he played with Iniesta and Xavi, and now he's playing with Pedri and Gavi. Like it's literally the reincarnation of them, exactly like you said. And it's amazing that Spain was able to like find those two kids and bring them up like they have, and their midfield is already set once again. They don't need to scramble to like find any like last minute replacements. Like they got their midfield, like they are good to go. This Spain team.
And the thing is, their midfield, not just their midfield though, like it's just their entire team.
It's their whole team. It really is. Yeah.
It's so scary, because Fernan Torres, also a very young player, just made his way to Barcelona from Manchester City, I believe.
Yeah, he was solid today.
I'm feeling like he might turn into the next David Villa. Like this team has so much potential. Right? They're playing extremely well.
Yeah.
And yeah, it's going to be a delight to watch them in the future. Even if it is now, then I can't only imagine what it's going to be like.
The Spain team, man, it's crazy.
Right.
Absolutely crazy. But man, even though all that talent, all the tiki-taka, all the beauty that Spain possesses in that game of football, and they still came away with a 1-1 tie, it is, kind of crazy. And it's even more crazy to think about, because Czech Republic now is leading that group. I mean, again, we're one game in, but like, that's crazy, because only one team from that group, and that's a really hard group, might I add. So whichever team goes down to League B because of that, it's going to be kind of sad. But anyways, so let's move on from Spain versus Portugal. I know we could probably talk all day just about these two teams, but we have some predictions we have to make. Yes. There's quite a few Nations League games that are going on. So, I mean, I'm basically just going to give the floor to Seth and Simone here to just talk about these games coming up. First up, Belgium-Netherlands. You two want to take it away?
Yeah, so I know we have a lot of predictions to make, and we still have a lot to talk about after in terms of World Cup qualifying.
Yeah. Just say what you need to say, and then we'll see what happens. And
the Cup of Champions game. So I'm going to try and be quick, but I also want to get my points across, of course.
Right.
So
Simone, if you ever want to interrupt Seth, you always could.
Yeah, feel free, man. Feel free, of course. So, yeah, starting with Belgium versus Netherlands. Wow, what a game. What a game. So I'll give you guys my score prediction to start, and then I'll go into a little bit of an analysis. So I have Belgium winning this game 2-1. I think this is going to be a close game. So in World Cup qualifying, Belgium finished first in Group E. They had 6 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses. They had 25 goals for, 6 goals against in 8 games. Very impressive stats. I believe in their last World Cup qualifying game, they played Wales. They had 76% possession, 16 shots, 4 on goal. This team is a possession-based team. They love to have the ball, and they really just like push it down your throats. Like, they are lethal when it comes to just creating chances, putting balls into the box. I mean, I'm just going to name off a few players, notable players for this team. And there's plenty more that, like, good talent on that team. But, I mean, you have the likes of Lukaku, Origi, Kevin De Bruyne. You got Thorgan Hazard. You got Axel Witsel, Thomas Munier, Vertonghen. And, you know, I would say Eden Hazard, but he's been a bit out of form lately. So, but if he can somehow find himself again, that would be really good for Belgium. So now let me just talk about the Netherlands real quick. They finished first in Group G.
Actually,
go ahead.
Mention Thibaut Courtois when you were talking about the Belgian lineup?
I did not mention Thibaut Courtois. I did not.
You know,
I feel bad. I've been neglecting goalkeepers this whole podcast. I gotta start mentioning.
You got Matt Turner. That's one thing.
I did get Matt Turner. I did.
But
Matt Turner's my boy.
Matt Turner, but somehow forgot the best goalkeeper of our current generation.
Yeah, literally one of the best. Yeah.
Oh man.
I gotta stop forgetting these goalkeepers. You're right, Courtois. Probably one of the best performances in the Champions League final. That was unbelievable. He deserved man of the match for sure. And yeah, he also plays for Belgium, in case you guys didn't realize that by now. So what a beast. Now on to the Netherlands. So they finished first in Group G. 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. 33 goals for, 8 goals against in 10 games.
That's not bad. Plus 25. Not bad.
I believe in their, I think this was a World Cup qualifying game against Norway, or it might have been a friendly, I can't remember, but they had 65% possession, 10 shots, 5 on target. And again, I just want to note a few players here for the Netherlands that they have. Memphis Depay, Bergwijn, Frankie de Jong, Wijnaldum, Daley Blind, Virgil van Dijk, De Ligt, Nathan Ake. I mean, this team is stacked. Both teams are very stacked, and this is going to be a good game. Both teams like to have the ball, but I'm going Belgium here. Like I said, 2-1 win. I think Belgium is tired of all the hate they're getting. Belgium over the years has been getting so much hate because they're second in the FIFA World Rankings right now. They're like literally one of the best teams in the world, or they're supposed to be, but they just don't win any trophies. They've been getting knocked out of the quarterfinals, the semifinals of Euros and World Cups and Nations Leagues. Like they just haven't been able to put it together. And this is supposed to be their golden era. Like this is supposed to be it. And I think you have a lot of players that are like in their prime right now and look really good, and I think Belgium's ready to put all these pieces together and show everybody why they're a strong team and one of the best in the world. And I think they do that by making a statement against a team like the Netherlands. So I got Belgium, who I think will control the pace of this game, have a majority of the possession, create most of the chances. And don't get me wrong, Netherlands will be lethal. They will be lethal on the counterattack when Belgium gives up possession. They will have their own chances. But I think Belgium really controls this game. They make a statement here, and they get a nice, clean 2-1 victory over the Netherlands.
Not bad.
Well, I really like that. That was very elaborate.
Thank you. I try for our audience. I want to give them the best content, the best analysis.
Every time you finished one sentence, you picked what I was thinking right out of my brain. I wanted to compare Belgium to PSG. On paper, this team should be dominating, and yet they're always making it far into competitions as well for the most part.
I like that comparison. Yeah.
they just never seem to win it. You know, like they just always, it's just a team that's always going to be good, or just for now at least, is a very good team, has been a very good team for the past few years.
Right.
They just can't seem to make it to the end. It seems like they go off to like 1-0 games. You know, like they dominate the group stage. You know, they go through everything very well, and then they end up losing one game in the quarterfinals, like 1-0. You know, barely losing, getting a score under the 90th minute or something.
Right.
And you know, I had Belgium as the World Cup winners in 2018. So that didn't go the way I wanted to, but France, you know, they greatly deserved it. But yeah, I thought Belgium was going to be way better in the past, and right now I have to agree with Seth. I think that they definitely want some revenge. You know, people have been making fun of them for having such a good squad, the same way people have been making fun of PSG for going out in round of 16 when they have Neymar, Mbappe, and Messi as their forwards. So, you know, I think Belgium is going to win this, and I think that they're going to actually win 2-0.
I like that.
I was inclined to say that there was going to be a 2-2 tie, but after seeing some of the performance from the Netherlands players, I think that Belgium is going to be able to walk away with a pretty solid win here.
Yeah.
Again, they're going to be able to dominate the game, and I just think that the Netherlands, like some of their most important players, haven't been on top form lately. Frankie de Jong, one of their most important midfielders, hasn't been getting that much playing time in Barcelona. You can see that he's slowly getting replaced by the midfield of Gavi and Pedri, and as I heard, he's looking to move somewhere, such as Manchester United. Just rumors.
Just rumors, yes. It's always just
you know, if he doesn't want to play in the Champions League, that's fine.
Oh, no. I can't wait till the Premier League podcast start in a couple months.
Oh, man. That'll be a good one.
All right, we got the Europa League wrapped up.
Same thing with Memphis Depay. You know, he started at Barcelona as, you know, very promising. He was scoring some amazing goals for them, keeping them in every single game despite that falling they went through at the beginning of the season. And I just think that he's just, you know, slowly been giving out. And I think that unless he goes to have his best performance, like, it's going to be the same thing as what we've been seeing lately. And it's just going to be mediocre playing, you know, not giving his all. And, you know, maybe I'll eat my words, but I don't think there's much that, unless, you know, he tries. I don't know. He's a wild card to me because he'll either score a goal that you're not expecting. He'll do some kind of Rabona and score the most beautiful goal I've ever seen, or he'll mess it happen. You know?
Right.
And so I just don't think he has it in him, but we'll see. You know, maybe he knows how important this game is and wants to prove a point against Belgium.
Yeah.
But again, I don't think Netherlands is going to be taking the win. I think Virgil van Dijk, obviously, who was rated one of the best defenders in the world a few years ago, I think he's kind of, I'm not going to say he's done for, but he's definitely not as scary as he was 3 years ago.
Agreed.
You know, he's coming back from having lost the Champions League final, which is never a good feeling.
Right.
And, you know, I just the way I sent you guys a clip earlier, you see Bernardo Silva just running through him, leaving him on his knees.
Absolutely, yeah.
It reminded me a lot of Jerome Boateng against Messi. Like, Messi completely annihilates him with that little cut, you know. And that kind of ended his career, essentially, because he just started playing as good as he was. He stopped. He's just, you know, he lost his form after that. It was embarrassing, and he just couldn't get back into his regular form. And not that happened to Virgil. It's just that I don't think he's as strong as he used to be. He's not as, you know, aware, and he's still a great defender, and I think he'll do a very good job in the game. But I think that they'll be able to get past him a few times, at least, in the game coming up. And so, yeah, I mean, overall, I think that Belgium is going to be taking the win against the Netherlands. And there's not, I mean, same thing with, I forgot to mention De Ligt. You know, he's a very young defender, very good defender. Mm-hmm. But again, he hasn't had his best season this year. And again, I don't think they're going to be able to stop Belgium's attack. It's funny because Eden Hazard, you know, one of the best players, in my opinion, could have been considered the next Messi if he stayed at Chelsea or he just didn't get injured.
Right.
He was amazing for Belgium as well. And then once he got injured, it was, it sucked. But then now we have Thorgan Hazard, his brother, who's playing very similarly to the way his brother did before. He's not making
He's really good, Thorgan Hazard.
But he's still making some very well-timed runs.
Yep.
And he's a very good player. And I didn't expect it because I remember seeing him in FIFA when I was like 14 or 13 and seeing him in Belgium reserves with like a 69 overall. And I was like, this kid is
right.
brother. And he's basically carrying the Hazard name because Eden Hazard has fallen off hard, and he's still making Hazards look good by playing the way he has been. So I think that Belgium is gonna take a nice and easy dub. Maybe not easy, but a nice dub, 2-0.
All right. Got some decent predictions there. Okay, so that was just game one of the rest of the Nations League predictions we got going. You guys are very in-depth, which is very good. You guys let the audience know on some very key details and key players. But let's see how we can do on the rest of these games on our list here, because we're still in Nations League. But Croatia versus Austria, World Cup 2018 finalist versus Austria.
So I won't spend too much time on this one because I know we just spent a lot of time on that last one, and not as interesting of a game, but still a pretty good one here. So. Croatia finished first in Group H in World Cup qualifying, 7 wins, 2 draws, 1 loss. They had 21 goals for, 4 goals against. In their last World Cup qualifying match against Russia, 68% possession, 19 shots, 5 on target. They have some pretty notable players as well. They have, Kramaric, they have Perisic, they have, of course, the GOAT, Luka Modric, Brozovic, and Kovacic. I mean, it's just Itch. It's the Itch family in there. But that's what it is in Croatia. Yeah. Hey, man, they're great players, so...
I mean, every nation's got their culture,
Of course. Very good team. Like you said, they made it to the finals of the 2018 World Cup. We have Austria now, who I'll talk about for a sec. Disappointing. They finished 4th in Group F of their World Cup qualifying group. 5 wins, 1 draw, 4 losses. 19 goals for, 17 goals against.
Plus 2. Yikes.
One of their notable players, Marcel Sabitzer. Very solid player. But obviously he couldn't do enough to get it done for Austria in the World Cup. I thought Austria was going to be much better in those qualifiers. And because of how poor they were, I honestly think Croatia takes this match a little more easily than I thought they would. I'm going to go with a 2-0 victory for Croatia. And I just think that the overall talent for Croatia is just beyond Austria's. And Austria is a very physical and tough team, but I mean, this Croatian side, they're getting older. A lot of their players are getting older. They have a lot of veterans. They're not a very young team, but it's the talent, the IQ, the skill, it's all still there for them. They lost a couple key pieces from 2018, but they're still very much that same Croatian team. And I think they take this game with comfort and get the job done. 2-0 over Austria.
Yeah. I don't think Simone's going to disagree with you, but Simone, you got a word to say?
I mean, when I think of Austria, the one player that comes to mind immediately is David Alaba. I could not name too many other players from Austria for you off the top of my head.
I mean, that beats me already, so, I mean, you're doing a great job.
Yeah, David Alaba, too. I did forget to mention him, yeah.
But, yeah, I mean, to me, a defender can't carry a team. A forward can't carry a team. A midfielder can't carry a team. Maybe for a game or two, but they can't carry an entire tournament, no matter what. No matter how hard they play, how good they are. You saw Messi 2014, that loss to Germany in the final. That was pretty much the time when he carried his team to finals, and he couldn't even win it himself. So I'm just gonna say it, the best player in the world. I'm sorry, Seth. I had to, although it is Messi. if you couldn't do it, no one can. And so I think that Croatia is going to be able to easily win this 3-1. I feel like Croatia's defense can be a little sloppy at times, and they've made a few mistakes in the past, which is why I'm mentioning this. And I think that because of that, I think Austria will have at least a few chances and maybe be able to score one. So that's why I'm going with the 3-1 prediction. But I do think that Croatia is going to be able to capitalize, especially with their players, some of the best midfielders in the entire world. And so with that, I think that they are going to be able to take the dub. And
all right.
Yeah, just kind of one more thing. Like, the difference between Croatia and Spain is, like, now you have a great Croatian side, but the thing is their players are old, so the future isn't looking as bright for them as it is for other countries. So this might be one of the last years for Croatia to really make a dent and get some kind of trophy, because I don't think that there's going to be much hope for them in the future until a new generation is born, because they don't have any crazy youngsters the way that other teams do at the moment.
Right. No.
So hopefully, with this knowledge, they're going to try extremely hard. They're going to be motivated to fight back no matter what and get something out of it.
True. Yeah, you bring up very good points. Well, I can't wait till Sunday night when we record the next episode, when I get to prove you guys wrong and Austria beats Croatia. I'm just kidding. Who knows what will actually happen? But yeah, that Croatia-Austria happens today when you guys are seeing this on Friday. And we'll see how that game goes. Another highly anticipated game. Well, I mean, any game where France is in is kind of highly anticipated. So I'm sure you guys have a little bit of word to say about France. Not sure about Denmark, though, but that is the next competition.
I got something to say about
France, Denmark. Seth, Simone, the floor is yours.
All right, so this game right here, they're playing each other in the World Cup. They are in the same group in the World Cup. They're in the same group in the Nations League. So they're going to be seeing a lot of each other. Oh, man, this is going to be a great game, because Denmark is one of the most underrated teams at the national level, in my opinion. I think this game, I'm going to give you guys my score prediction now. I think we're looking at a 2-2 draw between France and Denmark. I think people severely, trust me, I understand how good and strong France is, but I think people severely underestimate, this Denmark team. So let me just throw out some stats for you guys, like I've been doing for all the games. So France, they finished first in Group D,
right,
5 wins, 3 draws, 0 losses, 18 goals for, 3 goals against.
Jeez.
Yeah, I mean, this team is just insane. And I'm probably going to miss a couple, but honestly,
to list off their entire team.
Their whole team is notable players. They really don't have a weakness. I mean, you got Mbappe, you got Benzema, you got Griezmann, you got Kingsley Coman, you got Dembele, you got Kante, you got Pogba, you got Ben Yedder, you got Pavard, you got Theo Hernandez, you got Koundé, you got Upamecano, you got Varane. The list goes on. It really does. I mean, you got Lloris. There you go, Simone. I didn't forget the keeper. You got Hugo Lloris. This team is just insane. There's a reason they won the 2018 World Cup. But let me just talk about Denmark for a sec, because this team, in my opinion, is very underrated. They finished first in Group F in World Cup qualifying. 9 wins, 1 loss. They had 30 goals for and only 3 goals against in 10 games. That's 3 goals per game. And they have some very notable players too. Obviously nowhere near as notable as France, but still some really good talent. Of course, you have Christian Eriksen. You have Yusuf Poulsen. I might have butchered that, but he's a very solid forward. Daniel Wass. You got Højbjerg for Tottenham. You got Andres Christensen. You got Simon Kjær from Milan. You've got some solid players on this Denmark team. And I think Denmark is just a team that can really break you down. Even a team as good as France can really break you down and just create such good chances. They can create really good chances, but not only that, they are really good at finishing their chances, getting the ball into the back of the net. They play with so much confidence, this team. This team is riding high. They are confident. And I think they're going to easily get out of the group. Maybe not in the Nations League because only one goes. But in the World Cup, I think them and France have a very good shot of going out of the group to the round of 16. And that's why I'm predicting a 2-2 draw here, because France, I mean, it's France. Like, I could talk forever about how good France is. They're just good at every level. They're good at everything. Like, I'm not even going to get into the specifics. They're just
good.
They're unbelievable.
They're better than good.
No, they are like one of the best, and they are great at every position, stacked at every position. Like, their backup team could probably beat most like international teams, A teams. Like, that's how much depth they have at every position. It's absurd. But yeah, I just think I think Denmark can really bring it to France. And I can see a draw happening. Again, really wouldn't surprise me if France won. It would surprise me if Denmark won. I think it'd be a little bit of a surprise, but not too crazy of one. So I'm going to go with the 2-2 draw. And I just want to bring up one more point here. I'll talk more about this when we get closer to the World Cup. But Denmark is my dark horse. They are my X factor in this World Cup right now. I believe Denmark is going to make one of the most historic runs in the World Cup. I would not be surprised if we're talking about Denmark in December as a semifinalist team in the World Cup. You're hearing it here first.
6 months early prediction.
You're hearing it now. I'll talk it up more, build it up as we get closer to World Cup. But I'm just saying, I'm not predicting them to be in the semifinals. I'm just saying, I wouldn't be surprised if we're talking about Denmark in late December. Like,
crazy.
Just be ready for them.
All right.
Just be ready.
Simone, a lot of hot takes. You got any words about these two kind of crazy teams?
Yeah, Denmark, I was one of the people to, write them off in years prior, but they have really made some strong cases for themselves in the last few competitions we've seen them in. And, I had a question before I get into a little deeper analysis.
Yeah, go ahead.
Do you guys know if Christian Eriksen is going to be playing for them in the World Cup or in any of the games in the future?
That is a good question. I believe he is. Yes, I believe he will be playing for them. He played for Brentford this season in the Premier League. He played games. And I believe he played in a friendly or 2 friendlies in March, and I think he actually scored in one of those. So yes, he should be a part of the World Cup squad. Yes.
Okay, good to know. Well, just going back to 2021 real quick. France wasn't too good in the Euros compared to Denmark. I mean, they made a really strong statement. They made it all the way to the semi-finals, losing to England, who almost went to win the whole thing, except losing it on penalties. And France they were eliminated in the round of 16, I believe, to Switzerland in penalties.
Yeah, Mbappe missed.
So,
wow.
The thing is, after that, what I'm really focusing on is after that. I think France made a pretty strong comeback. After being known as the world champions in 2018 to have not even made a pass to the round of 16, they were like, yo, we got to get our stuff together. And they ended up playing in their World Cup qualifier matches extremely well. I don't think I saw too many losses, if there were any. I think they went much unbeaten the whole time. And, Denmark was actually kind of went the opposite for them, because in the last few World Cup qualifier games, I believe they lost at least 2 of them. So, as much respect I have for Denmark, I think that France is going to be winning this game. I don't think it's going to be by much, but I think they will be winning it 2-1.
No, it makes sense.
I just, as much, I honestly would prefer to see Denmark winning. Everyone likes to go for the underdogs, even though they're more like a dark horse, like Cezch said, than the underdogs, because this team can play. It's just that I think that with recent games and just based on these recent stats they've had, I think that France is a lot more determined to make an impact and prove like, hey, we won it last World Cup, we're gonna do it this time again, you know.
Right.
And I don't think Denmark is quite ready. I think they're gonna play extremely well. I don't expect them to play bad by any means. I just don't think they're gonna be able to handle the likes of Mbappe, who also was out in the round of 16 this year in the Champions League, and Karim Benzema, who won the entire tournament, you know, and probably should have won the Ballon d'Or if he, you know, we don't know if he will or not, but in my opinion, he's a strong candidate for it.
Right.
So I don't think Denmark is going to have much of a, you know, I just think it's a very, very tough draw for Denmark, and I think that France is going to be able to snag the way win from them.
Yeah, that wouldn't surprise me. Yeah, I agree. That wouldn't surprise me if they did. But again, they are my dark horse team, so I'm going to just ride with them. Go with the draw there.
Alrighty, well, that'll be an exciting game for you guys either way. France versus Denmark. We'll just have to see what happens on that one. Let's move on to next matchup, England versus Hungary. I mean, you know, not that bad, but the floor is yours, guys.
Yeah, so before we actually hop into England-Hungary, this is a little bit embarrassing, but do we have a charger for my laptop? Because my laptop is going to die. I am at 2%, and I would like to have my notes.
Oh, no.
Do you have one up here? I have one downstairs if we need, but...
I think...
Alright, I'll
just go downstairs. Apologies, guys.
Sorry, guys.
But, you know what? I'm going to hand the floor to Simone to give his take first. Simone, England versus Hungary. This is a good matchup. What do you got to say, bro? While Seth takes care of some business.
Oh, man. So I was actually looking at the stats for Hungary recently just to compare them to England, and I was actually quite surprised to see, because I obviously follow a lot of games, but I haven't been following it too much, you know, with school going on and everything, but realizing, or, you know, reading and seeing that Hungary actually beat Poland in November last year was quite interesting to see. Because I think that people don't really consider them a good or elite team. But the thing is that this team is actually pretty strong. And I believe it wasn't even a year ago. It was in October, that they played against England for a group stage in the World Cup qualifying match, and they ended up tying. So I think that this is not going to be like a blow away from England. I believe that England will actually be winning it. I believe they're going to win it 2-0, but I don't think they're going to win it by much. I think the match is going to be fairly close, and I think that Hungary is going to get a good amount of shots on target, or just shots in general, and a good amount of, you know, tries on goal, because I think that Hungary is just, you know, they're, like Seth said with Denmark, they're kind of underrated, and they're not I'm never going to say that Hungary is going to win the whole thing, but it can go far, and I think that they have the potential to knock a few of these powerhouses out if they, you know,
just take
are on their A game. But yeah, like I said before, I pass it off to Seth, who hopefully is back by now.
He said made it to the semifinals not semifinals. What am I saying? The finals in Euro 2020.
Yes.
So that's kind of ridiculous. But they did end up losing. I mean, when did the last time England won a trophy? The 60s? I mean, let's be real. Who knows? But this game could be pretty intense. Seth, you're back. Welcome back.
I am. I apologize about that, guys. I was just doing so much note-taking today. I just forgot to charge my laptop, but we're all set now. Got my notes here. So, England-Hungary. I'll give you guys my score prediction just to start here. So I'm going with a dominant 3-1 win for England over Hungary here. So again, just a little stats here. England finished first in Group I, 8 wins, 2 draws, 0 losses, 39 goals for, 3 goals against in 10 games. That's almost 4 goals a game. That is insane. And man, the talent they have on this team, it is just unbelievable. I mean, Harry Kane, Mason Mount, Phil Foden, Jordan Henderson, Declan Rice, Raheem Sterling, Ollie Watkins, Jack Grealish, Jadon Sancho, Bukayo Saka, Tammy Abraham, Jude Bellingham, Luke Shaw, Kyle Walker, John Stones. Like, the list just goes on. Like, this might have been more than France. Like, they have talent.
My goodness.
Like,
bro just named the entire squad.
like they
really did.
I did not name Harry Maguire though. And there's a reason.
Harry Maguire.
So.
Oh no.
So they have a lot of talent. Obviously, England is very talented. They actually were in the same World Cup qualifying group as Hungary. Hungary, who finished 4th in Group I, 5 wins, 2 draws, 3 losses, 19 goals for, 13 goals against in 10 games. In their game, England-Hungary, England had 64% possession, 11 shots, 5 on target. So I expect something similar, maybe even a little bit more dominant. Right. But yeah, England, they are just stacked at pretty much every position. Just like France, they just have such a talented attacking forwards and wingers and midfielders. Like, they can really hurt you from anywhere on the pitch. So they are a dangerous team. And just about Hungary, I mean, they don't really have a true superstar on their team, but they are a team that fights. They're a tough team to play. They didn't have the best World Cup qualifying campaign though. I thought they would do a bit better, honestly. So that because of their campaign, I'm gonna have England really taking this game to them, and not even just controlling it, but honestly dominating this game. So yeah, like I said, 3-1 win for England should be easy pickings for them.
All right. Well, next game, we're going to move on from that, is a pretty high-profile game. We have Italy versus Germany. That's going to be crazy, and I'm interested to hear your guys' takes on that. But before giving the floor to you guys, I just want to let you know we will be talking about the Finalissima very soon, so you don't have to bring it up now because we're about to get to that when talking about Italy. But go ahead. Italy, Germany. What do you got?
Yeah, so obviously, like you said, high-profile game. This is 2 European giants. I'll start with just giving my score prediction. I think it's going to be very low-scoring. I think we're looking at a 1-0 win for Germany.
Okay.
Which many of you may find surprising because of all the talent on both sides of the ball. But let me just give you guys some stats and then explain why. So Italy, they finished second in Group C to Switzerland. They really didn't do terribly. 4 wins, 4 draws, 0 losses, 13 goals for, 2 goals against in 8 games. They have a good team. Just a few notable players: Bellotti, Bernardeschi, Barella, Simone's favorite, Jorginho, Emerson.
Yo, don't ever say that ever.
Yeah, I know Simone voted him for the Ballon d'Or. Emerson, Di Lorenzo, and Bonucci. They also have Immobile and Chiesa, who are injured right now, but 2 very good players for them. And yeah, I will save what I had to say about the Italy-Argentina game for the
Italy-Argentina game.
For when we talk about it. Yeah, so I won't bring up anything about that yet. But I'll move on to Germany. Just give some stats here. They were first in Group J. 9 wins, 0 draws, 1 loss. 36 goals for, 4 goals against. In their friendly match in March against the Netherlands, they had 62% possession, 14 shots, 5 on target. Again, they have some very notable players as well: Timo Werner, Kai Havertz, Thomas Muller, Leroy Sané, Ike Gundogan, Serge Gnabry, Kimmich, Goretzka. They are just a very strong team here. But yeah, so honestly, the reason I'm going 1-0 Germany is it just Italy's latest performances. They just haven't seemed like themselves lately. there's just like there doesn't seem to be any want or like there's just no motivation on the field. It seems like everybody's just like down in the dumps because they didn't qualify for the World Cup. It's like they don't even want to be out there. And so that's why I don't think Italy's going to score once again. They struggled to score. They've struggled to score in the last 5 competitive games they've played. And Germany's not an easy team. They're a tough team to play for anybody. They have really strong, fast, and just tough players. They can beat you with one through ball. They can beat you with their very speedy wingers, Sane and Gnabry, and they can really hurt you. And like I said, I'm gonna respect Italy's defense once again because Italy is known for their defense. So I'm gonna keep it low scoring, like I said, 1-0 Germany. But I also wouldn't be surprised again if Germany gets 2 or 3 goals on this very vulnerable Italian team right now. So, yeah.
Simone? we're like, Simone, Italy versus Germany. This is wild. I mean, you know both teams very well. What do you got?
All I can do is sigh for that, you know.
F's in the chat for Italy.
Yeah, I mean, after the Euros, Italy has been extremely subpar.
Yeah.
And really, it's not that Germany's been amazing. They've been playing very good, don't get me wrong. But I feel like if Italy had just qualified for the World Cup, they would have been a little bit more motivated in this game.
Right.
I agree with what Cezch said. You know, like, Italy just, like, at this point, it's like, what are we even playing for? You know, we're not even going to be in the World Cup. It's, you know, all this stuff is pretty much pointless for the most part until 4 years from now. And the thing is, that's how you can't look at it like that. You have to look at it like we're just going to play our games. We're going to try our best to win. We'll take it one game at a time. And I feel like Italy just completely lost that, and they have not been performing that well lately. I wanted to agree with Seth's 1-0 prediction, but I actually have to go with the 2-0 prediction because I just think that Italy is not going to be able to hold their own against Germany, and I think they're going to sit at least 2 past them.
Right.
I agree. That's why I'm going with the 1-0 just because of my respect for Italy's defense, because that's what they're known for. But like I said, just like I said against Argentina, Italy, when I predicted 1-0, I said I wouldn't be surprised if 2 or 3 goals get past them.
Right.
Because they are just kind of vulnerable right now. So we'll see what happens. But
yeah, we will see what happens. So guys, all right, great job on the Nations League. The last 2 matches we have are the matches we've pretty much or at least matches from the same group that we've analyzed earlier in this podcast. Spain versus Czech Republic, and we have Portugal versus Switzerland. We both have you guys have already talked about so much about these 2 teams. So I mean, just basic score predictions, 30-second takes. What do you guys got for these games?
Yeah, so Spain, Czech Republic. I've got Spain winning this 2-1. I think Spain is just... They're not going to dominate, but they will control. I know I've said that a lot for a lot of the games, but they're going to control the pace. They're going to create a lot of chances. And that midfield 3, that front 3, they're just really going to expose this Czech defense. And but again, the Czech Republic are not a team that gets blown out that often. So I think Czech Republic is going to actually stay in this game, but I just think overall on the pitch, Spain's going to dominate. 2-1 Spain.
Simone, quick takes for this one. What do you got? Spain, Czech. Simone? No! We lost Simone. Okay.
Oh, no. I'm here.
Oh, no.
I'm sorry. I was eating a cherry and my mic was muted.
Oh, okay. No, you're good, bro. You're good, bro. Quick takes on Spain versus Czech. What do you got?
Yes. So, I mean, if Czech Republic plays the way they did a few days ago, or I'm not sure when they played, but recently.
Today.
Against Spain. Oh, it was today. Okay.
Yeah.
Well, if they play that same way against Spain, they're going to be in trouble. I feel like they need to take a completely different approach. I still think that Spain is going to win, but I don't think it's going to be a big scoring game. The thing is as good as Spain's defense is, Fernan Torres is still a very young striker, and I feel like they rely a lot on Alvaro Morata to really isn't the best striker. I mean, he's been good, for his whole life. He's played at some very, important clubs, some very big clubs in his lifetime, such as Real Madrid, Chelsea, Juventus. But he's never, been the best at anything. So I think that, if they're relying on Alvaro Morata to score for them, they're only going to score one goal.
Right.
One goal. So for this game, I'm predicting a 1-0 win for Spain.
Not bad.
I think it's going to be pretty much dominated by Spain, like Seth said, but I just don't think they're going to be able to blow anything out because they're just not going to be able to take advantage of those opportunities. So, like I said, 1-0 Spain.
All right, and Portugal-Switzerland, our last Nations League game for today's podcast. Just a quick prediction.
Yeah, so I'm actually going to go with the exact same scoreline here. I'm going to go 2-1 Portugal over Switzerland. I think on paper this should be a better game than the Spain-Czech game, and I think it really could be. I think if Portugal, gets Ronaldo into the starting lineup maybe, and plays their A team, plays how they did against Turkey and North Macedonia with a bit more confidence, a bit more swagger to them. I think they should be able to take this game from Switzerland. Switzerland, very good team though. That's why I have them keeping it very close. But that's the thing. If Portugal plays like they did against Spain today, they could be in big trouble.
Right.
They could be in big trouble here. So that's why I think Portugal needs to play Ronaldo, a goal scorer, get him on the field, let him, create, let him receive those through balls, get some headers, put in some nice crosses for him. And that's how Portugal, should use Ronaldo, play with him. You got great talent around him like Bruno Fernandes and Bernardo Silva to help him out. So I think if Portugal plays this right, if they play their cards right, they can take down this Switzerland side who just had a surprising loss to the Czech Republic.
Right,
so,
right.
2-1 Portugal.
Okay. Simone, quick takes. What do you got?
It's difficult to, predict these things because when you think of Switzerland, you think of how well they played in the Euros, and you think of them winning that
World Cup
penalty
qualifying,
shootout.
yeah.
And then, when you think of Portugal, you think overall a great team, but lately they haven't been doing too hot, especially that last game. And so I think it's actually going to be a 1-1 draw.
Okay,
I think that Portugal's self-esteem is a little low right now. And I think that, I don't think you can just spark creativity randomly like that. In a game like that, I think the entire team needs to be on the same page, and you can't expect that within a few days.
Right.
So I'm expecting a 1-1 draw. I don't think Portugal is going to do too much better than they did against Spain, but I do think that in the future, Portugal will definitely improve. They'll realize what mistakes they're making, and they'll improve as a team as a whole. I just think that it's too soon for them to do that, which is why I'm going with that 1-1 draw to Switzerland.
Gotcha. Hey, there we go. Decent games. They'll be very much looking forward to all those games. And guys, we just went through the UEFA Nations League for pretty much the weekend, so pat ourselves on the back. That was a crazy list of games. Good job to y'all. But we still actually have a ridiculous amount of games to cover. So we're going to move on immediately to a very fun game that we saw a few days ago on Wednesday. The CONMEBOL-UEFA, or UEFA, however you want to pronounce it. The Cup of Champions, the Finalissima, in the third time in history, Italy versus Argentina, where Argentina wins the Finalissima for the second time and only the third time the Finalissima has ever existed. And they won with a somewhat surprising, non-surprising scoreline of 3-0 over Italy. Simone and Seth, and I actually want Simone to start this one, but I'm going to ask the question. Is Italy trash?
Oh my gosh, what a start. Short answer, lately they have been extremely trash.
Yeah.
It's so unheard of for a team to win the Euros. Such a big, such a big tournament like that, and then to not qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah, within the year.
Exactly, within the same year. It's pretty much unheard of, and of course it's Italy. They're the ones to do it. They did the same thing, didn't they? Not after winning.
This is their second time in a row not qualifying. They didn't qualify in 2018 either.
Oh my gosh, yeah. I mean, Italy has it rough right now, and it's pretty sad because I thought that they were at least going to make it into the World Cup, and somehow they managed to lose to North Macedonia. I mean, even so, they could have lost to Portugal, but the fact that it was to North Macedonia is just
makes it funny.
Ridiculous. As soon as that game happened, I was like once I heard that the Finalissima was on, I was like, yeah. I mean, if they're going to lose to North Macedonia, there's no way they're taking this cup home. And as we saw, I didn't get to make my predictions last podcast. I'm not sure if you guys did, but
right.
I also agreed. I thought that Argentina was going to win, not by a landslide, which was what they did, but I thought a 1-2 goal difference. But I was extremely shocked with the 3 goals that Italy allowed to be put behind them.
Very insane.
It was a very intense game. Very very good performance from Messi. We haven't been seeing too much of him at PSG. Even though he hasn't been scoring much there, he has still been a very crucial player. He's been making some very good runs, very good vision, very good plays, and he's still an amazing player. He just hasn't been scoring the same way he used to,
right?
And that's what people see. So that's why it was interesting to see him with Argentina, because the thing is, he's still Messi. He's still one of the best players in the world, and we really saw that in this competition. We haven't been seeing it much at PSG, but in this one, we did. We saw why he was considered the best soccer player alongside of Ronaldo for the last 10 years, even more,
Yeah.
Argentina did a very good job in dominating possession, winning these balls in the air. And, I mean, it's not a surprise that Argentina won. And I'm going to have to answer your question again. Yeah, Italy is trash because, damn, how do you choke so hard? It's like, I get that you might not be the first in your group. Like Argentina, they came in second to Brazil is in first. But they're still at the top of their league. Not even they're not fighting for a spot. And the thing is, that's where Italy was. And how is it so different? How is how is it so different in Europe and South America? So it's crazy to see. And I did not think Italy was going to get far in this game against them. And as we could see, they didn't.
Yeah, Italy's free fall has actually been a sight to see. It's just been ridiculous. But you would think the 2020 Euros or 2021 would be their redemption arc, but then they absolutely just flubbed it in the end. Choked the World Cup, choked the Finalissima. Wasn't even close. And right before handing off to Seth, let's just acknowledge the fact that he pretty much predicted the score in a way. But he predicted the first goal to a T. He said Lautaro Martinez would score by an assist from probably Messi was what his exact words were. Now, Seth, you and I watched this game live, and what are your thoughts? I'm sure you got some.
Can you remind me what the name of our first podcast? What was the title for the video?
See, I do all the titling and the thumbnails and everything for our YouTube. I named it Argentina Dominates Italy, ? Was the
right.
Yeah, was the name of that first podcast.
And he named it that because that was my take.
Mm-hmm.
That Argentina was going to dominate Italy.
Yeah.
And I was exactly right.
Yeah.
And I said in that first podcast, you can go back and watch it, I said that Argentina was going to win 1-0. But what else did I say? I said that I wouldn't be surprised if they got 2 or 3 goals on Italy.
Yeah.
And that's exactly what they did. And, yeah, I mean, wow. This was just an utter embarrassment for Italy. Not as bad as losing to North Macedonia, but it's right up there. I mean, 3-0 is, a pretty dominant scoreline already.
Yeah.
But it's just not even the fact of... It's not even just the score. It was just, the play on the field. Let me give you some stats real quick. So, Argentina, 56% possession, 17 shots, 10 on target. Italy, 44% possession, 7 shots, 3 on target. I mean, this game wasn't even close. It was just complete and utter domination by Argentina. Like, Messi, he was phenomenal.
World class for a reason.
Like, he's been kind of poor at PSG, and it just, like, doesn't seem like he wants to be there. But he loves playing for Argentina. You can just tell. Like, you can see it on his face. He loves it. Messi...
The commentators did say, I think winning that Copa America, like, that trophy, like, broke that weight off his shoulders.
It did, and you could just see during that game, Messi was just pulling all the strings. He was pulling all the strings. I mean, everything was perfect for Argentina. Their team chemistry was on point. They were so free-flowing. They had such nice combination plays. Just all around, such great play. And if you're not taking Argentina as one of your favorites to win the World Cup, then you are crazy. Then you just didn't watch this game, because they were masterful. Absolutely masterful. And for Italy, they look lost.
Yeah.
They look completely lost on that field, and they look like they didn't even want to be there.
Yeah.
They just didn't even seem to care. Not a care in the world. And they just got absolutely bossed by Messi and Argentina. Messi had his way with them. That first goal was so beautiful. So beautifully set up by Messi for Martinez. Di Maria, wow, what a goal by him. To run around Chiellini like that, get a nice chipper over Donnarumma. Wow. And then Paulo Dybala coming in for the last few minutes, getting a nice strike at the end there. I mean, this game, like, man, I just can't say anything more than it was just domination by Argentina in a very, very well-deserved win for them.
So what's your answer, Seth? Is Italy trash?
Oh, man. They're not trash. Italy is not trash. Italy is lost. Italy is currently lost.
Seems to be in like a rebuild type mode or something.
It's not even rebuild, because they have the players. They really do. Like, yeah, Chiesa and Immobile were injured, two of their best attackers, but, you know, they still have Bernardeschi, Bellotti, like, decent, like, players to do it.
World class.
So I don't think they're trash, but they're just lost. Like, they need... I think it might be time for a new manager. Maybe Roberto Mancini isn't the right guy. Like, I don't know what they need, or, like, maybe they need to find a couple of different players. Like, I don't know what it is. Because, like, you know, they can play. I mean, against North Macedonia, yeah, they lost. It was embarrassing. But they dominated that game.
Right.
They really did. And I mean, obviously, this game was just a joke, but like, they are just lost. They need help. They need help. But I'm not gonna go as far to say as they're trash. This performance against Argentina individually was trash. Absolutely trash. They were terrible.
Right.
Terrible. But as a whole, as a team, and as individuals, no, they're not trash. They are just lost. They need guidance. They need help.
Yeah. I think you hit the nail on the head with that one. So there is your Finalissima. Argentina takes the cake, takes the win, 3-0 win over Italy. And yeah, Argentina is looking very, very solid for this World Cup. And Italy, I mean, we'll just have to see what their future is. So let's move on. As I mentioned the World Cup, it is now time to talk about World Cup qualifying. This is the segment, nearly 2 hours into this podcast, but boy, we've had a lot to talk about, and it's been worth it, so we're up to this point. World Cup qualifying, these last three spots are going to be crazy. Ukraine versus Scotland, the only game that has happened so far, the game that should have happened in March. Ukraine ends up taking the cake in a 3-1 victory over Scotland in Scotland. They will be facing off against Wales on June the 5th, that is Sunday at noon Eastern Standard Time. And then just to briefly brush against the rest of the World Cup qualifying games, Australia, UAE will face off on Tuesday, June 7th, 2 p.m. Eastern. The winner of that one will face Peru in about a week from then, June 13th. That is a Monday, 2 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. So Simone will finally figure out on that Monday whether or not Peru makes the World Cup. And then World Cup qualifying for Costa Rica versus New Zealand, CONCACAF versus OFC. That match will happen June 14th at 2 p.m. Eastern. And after that match, we will finally know all 32 teams in the World Cup. But let's go back to the top of the table. Ukraine defeats Scotland in Scotland 3-1 in what almost seemed like a home game for Ukraine. You pretty much predicted it. And now they're up against Wales. What do you got for us? Do Ukraine take it? What happens?
Yeah, so this game I was a little surprised about. I predicted 1-1, and then it would go into penalty kicks, and Ukraine would win in penalty kicks. So I did have Ukraine winning, but I didn't have them winning in this fashion. But after watching that game, I'm not surprised. I am not surprised one bit. Ukraine they played a perfect game. They were great. Just like how Argentina played against Italy, that Ukraine played a perfect game. And just some stats, of course. Ukraine had 58% possession, 15 shots, 8 on target. Scotland, 42% possession, 14 shots, 4 on target. So kind of even. Ukraine had a little bit of the upper hand in the possession and shots category, but not by too much. And dude, I called it in the first podcast. Yarmolenko and Yarmachuk scored 2 of those goals for Ukraine. They were 2 guys I said were going to be X factors, and that needed to be like their best for Ukraine to get past this game, and they were. They each scored a goal. It was great. So yeah, I really got to give it to Ukraine. They really just put in a beautiful team performance against Scotland. Just all around, it was beautiful to watch.
Right.
And like you said, yeah, Scotland was the home team, but man, Ukraine had a lot of fans there, didn't they? They had a lot of fans there. Like you could just see it in Ukraine. Like they wanted that.
They need this.
Pretty
much.
Like the passion and heart was so high for Ukraine, and like the passing was just so good. They were technically sound on the ball. They created really good chances, and like I said, such strong support from fans all around the world. And the only thing I have to say about that is I do feel a little bad for Scotland.
Yeah.
It's basically the entire world against them in that case.
Yeah.
But, you know, they also just didn't really play a great game. Scotland struggled a bit. They created some good chances, but it just wasn't enough. They couldn't figure out how to really slow down Ukraine. It took them until like the 70th minute of the game to like wake up and start like really pressing and attacking. They looked good the last 20 minutes, Scotland. They looked really good.
It was too late.
But it was too late. It was way too late. They were already down 2. They got one back, but then it just wasn't enough. And yeah, Ukraine's smooth passing and movement, like I said, it was just way too much for Scotland and their really shaky defense. Their defense did not look great.
Yeah, Andy Robertson say they would allow shots on goal, and boy, did they allow shots.
They did. Andy Robertson, he was okay, but he wasn't great. He did what he could for that Scottish defense. And then last point I just want to make about this game was, wow, Zinchenko. He was brilliant. The Manchester City man was just like on top of his game. He didn't score, but man, he set up chances. He was creative, picked out good passes, never stopped running, was so aggressive. You could tell how much that game meant for him and for this team.
Right.
They played their hearts out, and they deserve that win, and I'm really glad to see them win, and I'm really excited for this next game against Wales.
Yeah, this will be absolutely crazy. And how about, Ukraine-Scotland. Simone, I don't know if you saw the game, but, I think you were driving at the time, but, I mean, Ukraine-Scotland, after hearing everything Cezch said and hearing what we've talked about, days before, I mean, are you really shocked at this result? Are you excited for Ukraine? I mean, obviously, everyone's behind Ukraine at this point, but, I mean, how do you feel about this Euro playoff and how it's going so far?
Wow, I mean, I watched the highlights. You know, if I can't make the game, I'll always watch the highlights. And wow, what can I say? I mean, holy cow, the goalkeeper is proving himself game after game. I believe his name is, oh gosh, Piatov. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right.
Yeah, something like
sounds about right.
He was impressive. He was a very impressive goalkeeper in that game. I hope that it was him playing because I don't want to sound too goofy. But yeah, I mean, if it was him, then he was an amazing keeper. He was making some great plays, great passes, great saves, and there was a few times that he got under pressure and he was able to just get the ball out of there. And you know, that goal line clearance just wasn't enough to get. You know, that's how Scotland got their one goal, I believe, and unfortunately for him, that goal line clearance wasn't enough. So, other than that, I think he would have maintained that. He would have maintained that clean sheet. And yeah, I mean, everyone is supporting Ukraine at the moment, rightly so.
Of course.
So it was hard for Scotland, like Cezch said. They had everyone against them, but yeah, Ukraine deserved it. You know, they played like their lives depend on it, and it was a beautiful performance. I didn't get to see the whole thing, and I'm sure that there's a lot of things that I missed. But based on what I saw, based on those 10 minutes in the
right
recap that I saw, they played well. They made great chances. They made great runs.
Yeah.
Their defense was solid, almost stopping that one goal that Scotland got on them. And yeah, I hope that they go far. They deserve it. Out of all these teams playing, Ukraine is definitely one of the teams that deserves to go far. They have spirit. They have good players. They have creative players. And man, I want to see them go far.
Yeah, I mean, and don't forget, I mean, they look good too. I mean, it's one thing to get the really support from everyone, but like it's another to just be a generally good football team, and they are good. They're playing some good soccer. Yep. And I know, Simone, I cut you off earlier in the podcast, but like you seemed ready to give your prediction on Wales Ukraine. You got a score prediction for us for this Sunday? Like, what's happening? Is Group B USA England? Are they going to get their third English speaking country in that group, or is Ukraine going to pull off fate and destiny and do it?
Man, like I said before, I mean, if we see, I'm sure that Wales is going to be starting their top team this time. Like, they cannot risk it. If they want to make it in there, they have to go all out. Like, this is the last game.
100%.
Yeah.
So it's not going to be an easy 100%. Game for Ukraine nonetheless, but I think with their spirit, they're going to be able to knock Wales out, you know? It's spirit versus gosh, I don't even know what to say for Wales. Like, a team that has relied so heavily on just a few players, like Aaron Ramsey, and oh gosh, I hope that's who it is. But Gareth Bale, you know, they've been relying on just a few players for the past few years, and they've gotten far. Mm-hmm. But again, like, they don't have that same feeling of unity that the Ukraine has at the moment, which is why Ukraine is going to take the game in a 2-1 win.
Oh, all right. That seems like a very worthy prediction. Seth, you gonna hop off that? Wales, Ukraine.
Yeah. So, I just want to start by saying that Wales is home. Wales is home in this game. They have home field advantage. But guess what? That's not going to matter. Just like it didn't matter for Scotland having home field advantage, because everyone will be backing Ukraine.
Yeah.
And man, with Ukraine's performance against Scotland, it's gonna be a very similar thing. Ukraine is just going to pour their hearts and souls into this match. Like, they are going to want this more than anything. Literally anything. And these players will be, like, willing to do just about anything to get this winner. And I do agree with Simone. I think Ukraine is actually going to win this game.
Mm-hmm.
I think it's just like written on the walls. Like, it's destiny for Ukraine at this point. But I'm gonna go with a little bit more of a spicy take here. So I'm gonna go 2-2.
Mm-hmm.
It goes to extra time. No goals. We go to penalty kicks. And Ukraine wins it in penalty kicks. That is my prediction. Ukraine will beat Wales in penalty kicks after being tied at regular time. So,
can we get penalty kick score as well?
I didn't think about that, but you know,
It could literally be like 5-4.
Yeah, I was thinking. I think it could be like a 5-4 kind of like, kind of shootout. It really could be. I think both these teams would be willing to step up in this big moment, and we would have a lot of confident penalty takers on both sides. But then
keeper might make the save for Ukraine at the very end.
It could be. I just think it's destined. It's destined for Ukraine to go to this World Cup. They have to. They really have to.
Yeah.
They have to do this.
They deserve it.
They have to do this for not only the players but for their people.
Mm-hmm.
They have to. And I just want to talk about a little bit more about their style of play. Both teams, Ukraine's passing and movement and their ability to create chances. It's just really scary. It is going to be scary for Wales' defense. But what's going to be scary for Ukraine is Wales' counterattack. Can really hurt you. You got two speedsters, Gareth Bale and Danny James, up top that can really hurt you. I'm just really looking forward to this game. This game's going to be great. And like I said, Ukraine will be playing for something bigger than the World Cup.
Oh, yeah.
They're going to be playing for their country, for their people.
Mm-hmm.
And for the recent events which has happened.
Yeah.
And I think that's going to put them over, and it's going to be super close, and they're going to get this win. And I actually have a hot take here.
Okay.
In another hot take in this game. So, I think it's going to be super close, and assuming Gareth Bale's playing, I believe he will be playing. That's why they rested him.
He should
be good to go. I believe in that 2-2 scoreline. I believe Gareth Bale will score both goals. I believe Gareth Bale will get the brace.
Okay.
And if this goes to penalties, and if Gareth Bale misses the penalty, or it doesn't even have to be him, if they lose in penalties, if they just lose the match, whatever, this is going to be a really hot take, but that could be the end of Gareth Bale's career for Wales. That could that might be it. Like I think Gareth Bale is at the point in his career where, like, if he doesn't make it to the World Cup now, then that's it. Like, it's now or never for him, because like Simone was saying earlier, he is out of his prime, but he's still a decent player.
Right. And
he really loves his country, and he plays hard for his country. We saw those 2 goals he scored against Austria. Wow, those were beautiful. He is still a good player.
Right.
But that's my hot take. If Wales don't go through that week, I don't know if that would be the end of Gareth Bale, like, in general, in club as well, but it could be the end of Gareth Bale at international level. It's just a hot take, though. It's just a hot take. But like I said, 2-2, going to penalties. Ukraine comes out on penalties. I think that would just be such a beautiful story, and that's my score prediction.
That's wild. Yeah, a lot to take away from that, but couldn't have said any of that better myself, and that would be kind of amazing to see Ukraine move on to the World Cup. Everyone's backing them, but again, Wales is also a team that has not been in the World Cup in over half a century, I believe. So both teams got a lot on the line, and we'll just have to see what happens. Sunday at noon, you'll all want to tune in for that one, so that's going to be an exciting game. Let's move on to the next set of World Cup qualifying, which is the CONMEBOL versus the AFC window. We have Australia versus the UAE, happening June 7th, 2 p.m. And the winner of that one will go on and face Simone's team over here, Peru. So, Seth, I know you probably got a lot of stuff written down about, a lot of these teams in the games, but I kind of want to hand this off to Simone first, because this is a priority for him. Simone, you've got probably the whole podcast to say about this team, but obviously you don't have that kind of time, but Peru, and who do you want to see? What are you expecting from these teams? Is Peru going to choke it? Are they going to triumph? Simone, the floor is yours. Speak your mind out, my guy.
So Peru is just, again, an 8-ball team. runs for them in the Copa America, making it to the finals a few years ago.
I know.
When they're on their A game, they're focused. They can pretty much, stay hold their own against any big team. You saw them hold their own against Brazil in the beginning,
right?
That final game, which they eventually lost. But
right.
If you can hold your own against Brazil, I feel like you can hold your own against pretty much any big team, any small team. And the fact that you can hold it, that means you probably can beat smaller teams as well, which they have. They've beaten Colombia. That's the thing. The thing is that Peru doesn't have any extremely outstanding players.
Right.
Now, there's a lot of teams in the world that, are defined by one good player that's on their team. Peru doesn't really have that. I guess you could say the best player for Peru is André Carrillo, who is he started off as a right back and now he's a right winger.
Right.
But he's one of the best players in my opinion on Peru. He's very creative. But the thing is, he's an 8-ball. Sometimes he plays, dare I say, like crap,
Mm-hmm.
He just, sometimes you feel it, he's there. You can feel his presence even when he's not on the ball. And then sometimes you don't see him the entire game. The thing is, he's been working very hard, and I know that for a fact that Peru is super passionate about the World Cup, about any international games. And the fact that we fought so hard to make it back. Peru started off in a very bad position in the World Cup qualifiers. Right. We started off very low. We lost quite a few games. And we literally dragged ourselves out of the mud to get into 5th place.
Right.
We almost made it to 4th, but after that loss to Uruguay, there was no way we could get back up there. But at least we still have a chance to make it.
Yeah.
Knocked Colombia out with a crazy game.
Yeah.
Like I mentioned earlier, we won 1-0 with barely any shots on target.
Yeah,
and like I said, that's what I'm expecting in this game against either Australia or the UAE, the United Arab Emirates. Honestly, I could care less who we face.
Fair enough.
Either way, I think we're going to win it. I hope we win it. I'm praying.
Right. We're praying for you.
Out of the game, I'll do this in chronological order, but I think that Australia is going to be the United Arab Emirates. I'm going to guess in a 2-1, 3-1 possibly. I'm just going to go 3-1.
Right.
Australia is known as, one of the only teams in Oceania, and so that's why they play with other teams. So I guess that I expect Australia to be in the World Cup, or at least in the running for it, just because I've seen them in so many other World Cups in the past. So I do believe that Australia is going to be winning that game, and I believe that Peru is going to beat Australia or whoever we end up playing.
Yeah.
Obviously, I need to wait for the game, but I do believe we're going to end up beating them. I'm not going to make any predictions yet because I do want to see who wins.
Right.
But I believe we're going to win. We're going to go through. It'll definitely be a lot more difficult against Australia, I feel, because they have a pretty good defense compared to the United Arab Emirates. Because if they somehow miraculously make it through, I'm going to basically guarantee that Peru goes through.
Right.
But yeah, I'm very excited for these games. This would be the second World Cup that Peru is in. We haven't been in a World Cup in quite a few decades.
Yeah.
Until recently. So it'd be amazing if we could qualify 2 World Cups in a row. Yeah. And so there's a lot of hopes from the Peruvians that they're going to win this thing because it would be amazing to see them back in it. It's Peru's making a comeback, and this is the time to show that we're serious and that it's not just a one World Cup kind of thing. We're here to stay.
Oh, yeah. I fully believe that. And, we're all pretty much rooting for you and for Peru. And, we hope they go through as well. If I were a Peru, fan, primarily, I think, honestly, I would prefer to face Australia. And the only reason I say that is because both of those games are going to be played in Qatar. And UAE is, very close to Qatar geographically. So it's almost like a home game for the UAE. So if Peru can avoid facing UAE in practically home grounds and can just play Australia in what seems like a neutral level instead, I think that could, play in Peru's favor because Peru, like we've said, is seems to be at least this World Cup cycle a bit of a stronger team. You would think Australia would have, automatically qualified by now, but somehow they're here, and I think that says something about their team. But I don't want to leave Seth hanging. I know he got some hard, work written down those notes for these teams. So, Seth, it's time for your take, my guy.
Yeah, so I'll start with Australia versus UAE. Oh, man. Honestly, this game could probably be one of the worst World Cup qualifying games. I mean, so the UAE have only ever qualified for one World Cup before, and that was back in 1990.
Okay.
And they had both teams honestly had very underwhelming qualifiers. The UAE, 3 wins, 3 draws, 4 losses. They had 7 goals for and 7 goals against in 10 games.
Right.
But this is as good as a chance, if any, to make the World Cup for UAE.
Yeah.
They have a chance. Not a good one, but they have a chance. So Australia is interesting because they have actually qualified for 4 straight World Cups.
That's fair.
And if they beat UAE and then beat Peru, that would be their 5th, dating back to 2006. So it's kind of surprising to see Australia in this position because they're normally one of those top 4 teams that qualifies.
Yeah, straight from the AFC.
Yeah, so it's very interesting to see them in this position. They also had underwhelming qualifiers. They had 4 wins, 3 draws, 3 losses. 15 goals for, 9 goals against in 10 games. Very, very average. And yeah, their team just isn't like it used to be. I mean, they only have 2 players that are from top 5 leagues. Their goalkeeper, Matt Ryan from Real Sociedad. And then they have, I might butcher this name, but Ajden Hrostic. He's an attacking midfielder for Frankfurt, who just won the Europa League.
Okay.
But that's it. That's all they have in the top 5 leagues. Australia used to, have a lot, better players on their tier, more that were in those top 5 leagues, I feel. So this isn't really the best version of Australia, I think.
Right.
But you are right, this game is going to be played in Qatar, and it's apparently supposed to be very hot on that day. And because...
Might have multiple hydration breaks.
You definitely will. And because of that, and just because both these teams were very underwhelming in qualifiers, and they struggled to score a lot, I just think it's going to be a very poor game. It's going to be just not very exciting, and it's going to be sloppy. It's just going to be a sloppy game, but there has to be a winner, and so I think it's going to be a very, very low score, as low as you can get. I'm going to go 1-0 Australia. I think Australia just is a little bit more talent than UAE, but it's very close.
Right.
UAE have, been okay. So it really wouldn't, if it went the other way around, it wouldn't surprise me one bit.
Right.
But I'm going to go with Australia. So 1-0 Australia there. And so I guess since we were talking about Peru and who they would face, honestly, I'm telling you right now, it doesn't matter what team advances. Peru is going to win.
I appreciate that.
I got you, bro. And let me just say, if Peru doesn't go to the World Cup, it will be an embarrassment.
Oof.
It will be
Italy levels.
No,
probably not. But
it will just be an embarrassment because they should be able to beat either of these teams with ease. With ease. I'm predicting 2-0 Peru for whichever team. It doesn't matter.
Right.
UAE or Australia, at least 2-0.
Okay.
And yeah, Peru should be able to take care of business. I know it's going to be played in Qatar, so that could have a little effect, but I mean, Peru's used to playing in a hot climate anyway.
Yeah, they're right by the equator anyway, so they're chilling.
So it doesn't really...
the opposite of chilling, actually.
That shouldn't matter. And, I mean, Peru had a very average qualifying campaign. 7 wins, 3 draws, 8 losses, 19 goals for, 22 goals against in 18 games. Like, very average, but... They did what they needed to do, and they've set themselves up for a prime position to qualify for the World Cup.
Yeah.
And yeah, they have some decent players. I mean, like Simone said, they don't really have that star player that a lot of teams have. I mean, they have some good players. They have Edison Flores and Christian Cuevo and Sergio Pena. I might butcher this guy's name, Yoshimar Yatun and Renato Tapia. Like, they have decent players, but, again, not that star player to stand out. But still, the quality on Peru is just much...
Outweighs the quality.
Oh, my God. It outweighs, like, both Australia and UAE combined. Like, I would just be honestly shocked if Peru did not end up going to this World Cup. So Peru should be able to take care of business, get the job done. I don't care which team moves on. I'm predicting Australia, but it won't matter because Peru should be able to handle business, get it done, and we'll see them in the World Cup.
All right. Well,
I actually want to add one quick thing onto that.
Go for it.
I wasn't even thinking about this until you mentioned it, Gabe. But that air quality, that pressure, that heat in Qatar, it's going to be a real challenge for Peru. Yes, they do play in hot climate. Peru is by far the coldest place on the world. But the thing is that I remember that a few months ago, Peru went to play in Bolivia, and the thing is that even though it's like only a few, 100 miles away, the altitude is insanely different.
Oh, yeah.
And Peru suffered there because they were not adapted to that air pressure and to that altitude. And so right now, I'm kind of thinking about what Gabe said, and if he's right and the United Arab Emirates have that home field advantage, then it could be a bit difficult for Peru. I think that overall they should, like Seth said, come through, but that would definitely make it a lot more difficult if it wasn't Australia that they were facing.
Yeah, that's fair.
So yeah, that's another thing I just wanted to add real quick.
Yeah, if it was possible for Peru to get to Qatar, like maybe like 3-4 days in advance of their match, I think that would be the smart move, just to get acclimated to the weather and the climate there. But who knows? I'm not sure if their travel is restricted or not, but that would definitely benefit them. I think we all are in agreement that we think Peru, and we believe and hope that Peru would move on to the World Cup. But you just never know, and that's the beauty of soccer. So let's move on to the last World Cup qualifying game, the one that will happen at the last day of the window, June 14th. Probably the most underwhelming World Cup qualifying, with the exception of Australia, UAE. The most underwhelming of the World Cup clincher spots. Costa Rica versus New Zealand. Costa Rica from CONCACAF, New Zealand from the OFC. New Zealand has practically had 0 opponents of quality to get to this point, but Costa Rica has, and they're in 4th place from CONCACAF, and they're here facing New Zealand. Seth, as a fellow CONCACAF viewer, watcher, fan, whatever you want to call it, what's your take? Costa Rica looks pretty good. We haven't seen New Zealand at all, but what do you got?
Yeah.
Will OFC be represented in the World Cup? Or will Costa Rica
OFC will
slide by?
OFC will not be represented in the World Cup, no. Costa Rica should have no problem getting to the World Cup over New Zealand. Costa Rica has looked very strong at the end of the World Cup qualifying campaign in CONCACAF. And I'm not going to take anything away from New Zealand. They
did win 5-0 against the Virgin Islands.
They were the best team in Oceania. But please, if you have time, take a look at the competition that New Zealand plays. It is pathetic. It really is pathetic.
I think like didn't half the OFC group like back out before qualifiers began or something? Like it was crazy.
It was
a lot of matches were even canceled.
I mean, they play the likes of the Solomon Islands.
That's what I meant to say. Tahiti, not Virgin Islands.
Tahiti, like New Papua Guinea or whatever it's called. I think I got it right, but like they don't have any competition. They just don't. And New Zealand's an okay team, but they're not great. And Costa Rica has proven that they can beat big time competition and that they can compete with big time competition. So Costa Rica should have no problem getting past New Zealand. But I'm going to keep it close because Costa Rica, I think, struggles to score, even though they are a good team. And I think New Zealand is going to, do anything it can to win this game. But I just don't think they have the firepower and the, technical ability to do it. So I'm going to say 2-1 Costa Rica. And, yeah, Costa Rica is just a very scrappy team. They fight hard. And I think they're just going to overwhelm New Zealand at the end of the day. So just a few stats here. So Costa Rica, they finished 4th in World Cup qualifying. Barely, by the way. Barely. Literally, it was by goal differential. 7 wins, 4 draws, 3 losses. So same record as the U.S. They had 13 goals for, 8 goals against in 14 games. So not great, but pretty average. The only thing that might be a problem for them, but it shouldn't be a problem because never mind. No, because they're playing 2 friendlies. They actually just played one tonight against Panama, or that was a Nations League.
He's moving this way.
And that was a Nations League game, and I think they have another friendly before. But I was gonna say before that they hadn't played a game since November, but they're gonna be fine either way. It doesn't matter. So, yeah, I think, I just think Costa Rica's got this game locked up. They should be fine. They should be able to take care of business against New Zealand. They have some decent players, Joel Campbell, Jose Ortiz, Oscar Duarte, not crazy superstars, but they're solid players all around and they get the job done. New Zealand, the only player I could think of they have is Chris Wood, their striker. He's decent. And I mean, it was just really pathetic for New Zealand. I mean, they 3 wins, 0 draws, 0 losses in their World Cup qualifying. They had 12 goals for, 1 goal against in those 3 games. In the 2 playoff games against Tahiti and Solomon Island, 2 wins, 6 goals for, 0 goals against. They beat Solomon Islands 5-0 in the playoff final. What kind of competition is that? That's nothing. But anyways, I mean, of course, still respect to them. They got to this point, but Costa Rica should be able to take care of business without any problem. Like I said, 2-1 win Costa Rica. We'll see them in the World Cup.
Okay. I mean, all right, Simone. Yeah. Costa Rica, New Zealand. I think Seth pretty much said everything we needed to say. I don't know if you have anything to say on top of that, but I'm pretty sure we're all kind of in a collective agreement that Costa Rica will move on, although if New Zealand wins somehow, miraculously, I just think it would be the most hilarious thing ever. What's your take?
Yeah, that would be surprising for sure. I really see Costa Rica as a similar team to Peru, actually.
Right.
Again, they don't really have standout players, but when they work as a team, they can accomplish great things. When they're in the zone, they can pretty much form an attack out of nothing. The way that Peru played against Brazil in the Copa America final that they ended up losing, it was just it was some of the most beautiful football that I've ever seen. Just playing it nonstop to your teammates, moving, creating space, and I've seen Costa Rica do similar things. And the thing is, again, I'm going to make 2 comparisons. So first we have Costa Rica with Peru, and then second of all we have New Zealand with Morocco. No real challenge where they're coming from. So how do you expect to play against these big teams, despite your record of, having a pretty decent stats and everything, how do you expect to compete against these big teams if you don't have anything challenging you? Which is why I think ultimately Costa Rica is going to go through again.
Yeah.
As I've stated so far. I think it's going to be a close game again. Similar with Peru, they don't have the strongest offense, and they don't have a definite goal scorer. So I think that it's going to end up being a pretty, even though Costa Rica is going to go through, it's going to be fairly close. I believe it's going to be a 1-0 win for Costa Rica.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I'm just going to be shocked if New Zealand ends up going through, because I don't really see a way that happens.
Yeah, no, makes sense. Makes sense to us. I think we're, like I said before, we're all pretty much in a collective agreement there, and yeah, we'll see if our predictions go through. Ukraine, Peru, and Costa Rica are our collective, World Cup qualifying winners to take those last 3 spots, and we'll regroup again in Sunday night's podcast about the Ukraine spot, and then in 2 weeks from now for one of the later episodes to see how Peru and Costa Rica did respectively. But that's going to do it for World Cup qualifying. We have just 2 more sections to go. They should go by relatively quickly, actually pretty quickly. First up is CONCACAF Nations League. Now, CONCACAF Nations League, with their selection of games, they don't have as many top tier teams as UEFA does. UEFA. It's not even close. It's apples to oranges. There's just no comparison there. But there are a few games going on. Like if you're a USA, Mexico, or Canada fan and need to pay attention to a few of these, then these might be some of the games to pay attention to. However, if you know anything about these teams, and didn't take notes like Seth did, then I'd be very shocked. I didn't even know half these countries existed before reading the note sheet. I'm just kidding. But we have our matches that we're predicting, or at least, briefly talking about: Honduras, Curacao, Jamaica, Suriname, El Salvador, Grenada, and Costa Rica versus Martinique. Like I said, not very high-profile matches, but if you're a CONCACAF fan, these are the first few matches in the Nations League. Seth, I mean, is there anything to say about these matches? Do you have a scoreline?
I'll be quick because there really isn't much to say about it. But I just want to explain something to the audience real quick before I start. So these teams like Curacao, Suriname, Grenada, Martinique, so they are a part of CONCACAF, but basically the reason they weren't in CONCACAF
World Cup
qualifying is because they had to go through an initial World Cup qualifying to get to those final 8 teams that were in CONCACAF World Cup qualifying.
Right.
So it was a bunch of groups. I think the top 5 ranked CONCACAF teams from the FIFA men's rankings get an automatic bye. They don't even have to go through that tournament.
Right.
But every other team in CONCACAF does. And that's why these teams you're seeing that are playing in the Nations League were not in regular World Cup qualifying because they didn't get past that initial first round.
Mm-hmm.
So just wanted to clear that up, and just so everyone understands. But they're in the Nations League, so like I said, going to be super quick here. Just give a couple stats, and we'll try and knock these out. Here we go. So Honduras, Curacao. Man, Honduras was just terrible in World Cup qualifying. They finished 8th, which was dead last. 0 wins, 4 draws, 10 losses. 7 goals for, 26 goals against in 14 games.
Minus 19.
And Curacao didn't qualify for CONCACAF World Cup qualifying, but they did beat Honduras 1-0 in the 2019 Gold Cup. That was the last time they played. And Curacao finished first in their first round group, but they didn't after moving on from that. They didn't eventually advance. But I'm actually going to go 1-0 Curacao here. I think they're going to get another 1-0 win over Honduras. Okay. Honduras was just terrible, so bad during World Cup qualifying that I don't even know how they recover from that. That was such an embarrassment. How do you get 0 wins out of 14 games? Not even just one against like El Salvador or Jamaica or just anybody. Like, just terrible they were. So 1-0 Curacao. That's my prediction.
All right. Now keep going. We're gonna go through all 4 games.
Just go through all 4 games.
Yeah, just go through all 4 games.
Okay. All right. So next game, Jamaica, Suriname. So I'm going with a 2-0 win for Jamaica. I think they'll win this game pretty comfortably. They finished 6th in World Cup qualifying. Not great. 2 wins, 5 draws, 7 losses. 12 goals for, 22 goals against. Suriname, just like Curacao, didn't qualify for CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. But Jamaica actually beat Suriname 2-0 in the 2021 Gold Cup. So they just played recently, actually. And Suriname, they actually finished 2nd in the first round in their group with Canada, and this is for World Cup qualifying. But obviously they didn't eventually end up making it to CONCACAF World Cup qualifying. But yeah, I'm going to go 2-0 Jamaica here. Jamaica should be able to take care of business pretty easily. So yeah, that's all I got to say about that.
Okay. Next up.
All right, so we got El Salvador, Grenada. This is an interesting game. El Salvador finished 7th in World Cup qualifying. 2 wins, 4 draws, 8 losses. Very similar to Jamaica. 8 goals for, 18 goals against in 14 games. Grenada didn't qualify for the World Cup, or for World Cup qualifying. And El Salvador actually beat Grenada 2-0 in that first round World Cup qualifying to get here. So I'm hoping this is making sense. Like, I feel like it's a little hard to follow, but I hope what I'm saying makes sense with
I think
the
when
first round, and then they go into like the next round, and then, you know, whoever wins that then goes to like the final 8 teams.
In CONCACAF,
yeah, I'm just hoping it makes sense to you guys. So I apologize if it doesn't. It is a little confusing, but yeah, I'm gonna go with a 1-1 draw here between El Salvador and Grenada.
Makes sense.
Grenada finished 4th in their first round group with El Salvador. I just think, even though El Salvador has already beaten them 2-0, I just think El Salvador is really poor during World Cup qualifying, and I think Grenada's just gonna want to try and play for something, and could just see a draw happen in there. So, yeah. All right, so last game here, Costa Rica, Martinique. I know we just talked a lot about Costa Rica. So not much I could really find on Martinique, honestly, but they were in the 2021 Gold Cup. They had 0 points.
Rip.
I mean, but they were in a group with USA, Canada, and Haiti.
That is a rough group.
But I'm just a bit shocked they didn't even get a single point. So they got 0 points. And just like I said with Costa Rica, New Zealand, Costa Rica should have no problem here against Martinique. I'm going to go with a 2-0 win for Costa Rica.
All right.
They really should have no problem in this tune-up game, which I think will be their last game before they play New Zealand.
Right.
So they're going to want to go out with a good, strong win, and I don't think they should have any problems getting there.
Yeah.
2-0 Costa Rica.
Alrighty. Well, that was some pretty good predictions. Simone, I know these CONCACAF teams, especially these very low-end ones, don't resonate or matter with you as much, but it would be disrespectful of me to not ask for your opinion. You don't need to do any analysis, but if you got score predictions, you could throw them out there.
Yeah, for sure. Well, before I get into it, just talking about CONCACAF, Mexico versus Uruguay. I just checked the score. I'm watching it live as we're talking. It's in the 50th minute, and Uruguay is up 2-0.
Holy cow, that is wild!
Wow.
Had a 35-minute goal for Matias Vecino, and then right after halftime, in the 46th minute, Edison Cavani makes it 2-0 against Mexico.
That's my boy.
Oh no! So is Mexico?
Yeah.
Do you see is Mexico playing like their top squad in this friendly? Do you know, or close to their tops?
I haven't been watching it long enough to really, be able to tell you.
That's
but
fair.
It looks like there's a few starters out. I would say at least half their team is starters. I haven't been able to make out the rest, but
okay.
It does seem like they have quite a few starters on, but so does Uruguay.
Right. Interesting.
If this is Uruguay's full night against, a mix of Mexico's A and B team, what does that say for both teams?
Then USA might be in for a rude awakening on Sunday, but we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, it's not looking good right now. Uruguay is pretty dominant. But anyways, that's not important right now. We'll talk about that in the next podcast.
True.
But yeah, so Honduras versus Curacao. Man. I've seen Honduras take on some of these, smaller nations and just completely obliterate them. And I'm going for a pretty high score line because Honduras is a team that can score goals pretty consistently. I feel like I haven't seen a game in a while where they are completely,
wild scoreline.
I mean, they can't get a chance in. I feel like Honduras can always get one or two of those chances in, and I think against these small teams, they really shine, and they really show how good they are at that.
Right.
So I'm going to be guessing 3-0 for the Honduras versus Curacao game.
All right.
Jamaica versus Suriname. I'm familiar with a bit of Jamaica, Jamaican football. I've seen them, and I've seen some of their games recently. Particularly last summer during all those international games.
Right.
And, I mean, I've heard of Suriname, but I really haven't seen them play. So I'm just going to guess. I mean, I know Jamaica isn't the best team. They're definitely a strong team, though. That's for sure.
Mm-hmm.
I'm going to guess a 2-1 win for Jamaica against Suriname because the fact that I have heard of Suriname in soccer
says a lot.
It means a lot to me. Because some of these teams, I had no idea even had national teams.
Yeah.
But yeah, since I've heard of Suriname, I'm gonna give them a little credit and give them that 1-2 against Jamaica.
All right, we like that.
Again, El Salvador versus Grenada. Again, Grenada is another team that I've heard of. They're not the best by far, but definitely not the worst. And I know that El Salvador has a history of not scoring. So I'm gonna make this game a pretty boring one, a 0-0 draw.
Yeah, haven't heard that one yet this podcast. So I mean, makes sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we're kind of being hopeful with these score lines. I really haven't heard us say 0-0, which a lot of these games might end up in.
Yeah,
so
could be right.
This is probably the most realistic game, in my opinion, that'd be 0-0.
Could be.
Out of everything we've talked about.
That's true.
With Costa Rica versus Martinique. Costa Rica is, like I said, is very similar to Peru in many ways. And I think that these teams are very good against these smaller teams. It's the big teams that they play against so often, which makes them look like small teams, even though Costa Rica and Peru are by far, not super team teams. They can hold their own.
Right.
So I'm going to get a 2-0 win for Costa Rica against Martinique.
Okay. I mean, we appreciate the predictions, my guy. Those were pretty solid, and we'll see if any of those come to fruition. And it is now time, ladies and gents, for the last segment of the podcast. We have international friendlies, and we'll be doing our 30-second take on each of these games. I think I'm going to go back and forth. So actually, before we do that, the first international friendly is Peru versus New Zealand. So I'll give you 30 seconds. But Simone, I want to give you a little bit of a time just to talk about your team yet again. They're up against New Zealand in this international friendly. How do you think they're going to do?
If we lose, I'm going to be very disappointed.
It's understandable.
Well, all Peru games, if they lose, I'll be disappointed.
That's
but
true.
Again, I mean, as we spoke about them earlier, I compared Costa Rica and Peru, and Costa Rica is playing New Zealand as well. And everyone said that we're banking on Costa Rica to win these games. And again, since with these two teams being so similar, I feel that Peru is going to be able to do the exact same thing. New Zealand has had no real trouble, and I feel like they're going to face it from us. We're going to give them a run for their money, and I think we're going to be able to win the game with ease.
Yeah.
I think it's going to be probably a 2-0, 3-1 game. I'm going to go with 2-0, though. I don't think that New Zealand is going to be able to break through our defense because I feel like they haven't played anything like it in a very long time. So it'll be a rude awakening for them.
Right. Yeah, see, I'm wondering now if New Zealand will take, knowing if it kind of has the same mindset as you, where that Peru and Costa Rica are kind of very similar, football or soccer teams. And if, win or lose against this game against Peru, I feel like New Zealand will at least have an idea of what they're up against in this World Cup spot against Costa Rica. So I think they could take that, go head on against Costa Rica, and maybe actually put on more of a show than we think. And I think this game against Peru is like their first real test in like years probably. So I think this is actually a very good matchup for New Zealand, whether or not they win. All right, Seth, I am going to give you 30 seconds now.
All right, so I've got Peru also winning this game 2-0 against New Zealand. I completely agree with Simone. I think Peru and Costa Rica are kind of similar teams, but I actually think Peru is a little bit of a better version than Costa Rica. And earlier before, I already had Costa Rica handling New Zealand pretty easily. So
right.
For that reason, I'm taking Peru with an easy win, 2-0.
Fair enough. All right, Simone, Colombia, Saudi Arabia, go.
You know, it's pretty heartbreaking that the Colombians are going to be in the World Cup this year.
Very true.
It's amazing to see them in the last few decades. You know, they've been making it fairly consistently. The way that they play, they have when they had James Rodriguez. I feel like they always have some kind of superstar. They always are making these crazy plays, and you know their emotion, their culture is what really shows. They always have their culture.
4, 3. Yep.
Oh,
sorry, I got that.
Let me go back. So it sucks for Colombia, but I think they're going to put on a show against Saudi Arabia, and I think they're going to completely blow them out and win 4-0.
Oh man, 4-0. All right, fair enough. Yeah, no, I usually do.
Do
hand motions to count down from 5, so I figured I'd just say 5, 4, 3 to you over the phone.
Right.
But all right, Seth, we got what's the next one? Argentina versus.
You didn't do my. Colombia.
Oh, you didn't do Colombia versus Saudi Arabia. Okay, Colombia versus Saudi Arabia in 2 seconds. Go ahead.
Yeah, so I agree with Simone here. I think Colombia should be able to handle this game pretty easily. I've got Colombia winning this one 3-1 over Saudi Arabia. I think Colombia's just really bummed that they aren't gonna go to the World Cup, and I just think they're probably just gonna take their anger out a little bit on Saudi Arabia and just show them that they're still one of the top teams in South America. So Colombia's very talented and should have no problem against Saudi Arabia. 3-1 Colombia.
All right, Simone. Argentina, Estonia, go.
I mean, where do you start with this?
Do you start at all?
I mean, look, you have one of the best soccer teams in the world at the moment. They just won some big trophies. They have one of the best players in the world at the moment, and I think they're going to completely outclass Estonia. Estonia struggled against Czech Republic, Belgium,
5.
Other big teams, so I think it's going to be pretty hard for them. I believe it's going to end up a 3-0 win for Argentina against Estonia.
All right, Seth, Argentina, Estonia.
This isn't even going to be close. This is just an absolute nightmare of a situation for Estonia. I feel very bad for them. This is going to be a cakewalk for Argentina. And I honestly think they're not going to show any mercy. They're going to actually rack up quite a few goals here. I'm going with a 5-0 win for Argentina over Estonia.
Fair enough. All right, Simone, CONCACAF, Canada versus Panama in a friendly. What you got?
Just before I start, just to pause the timer real quick, I do want to say that it is now the 59th minute in the Mexico-Uruguay game, and Uruguay is up 3-0.
Oh, no.
Wow.
That is
actually... Cavani, again, with his brace of the night, with the goal in the 54th minute, 2 goals within 8 minutes. He is insane. He's on fire tonight.
That is...
Just want to bring that in real quick. It's not looking good for the U.S.
Yeah.
Uruguay out scary.
Oh, boy. 3-0 against Mexico.
My prediction.
All right, go for it.
Canada versus Panama. Canada is proving themselves year and year again. They have a bunch of young players that are coming out to play. Obviously, the most notable one is Alphonso Davies, but they also have plenty of other strikers and midfielders that are really up there. And I think that they're going to blow out Panama again. I'm going to guess a 3-1 win.
Okay, fair enough. And you did that in half the time. Seth, what do you got?
Yeah, so I agree with Simone. Canada has just been such a good team. Honestly, the best team in CONCACAF this year. Yeah. They placed first place in the qualifiers. They looked really good. Just like Simone said, they got some very young talent, very promising, and they got to prove that they can continue to beat these CONCACAF teams because they have a tough group in the World Cup. So I am going with a 2-1 victory for Canada over Panama.
All right, Simone, and even though Mexico's getting blown up by Uruguay right now, they're up against Ecuador in another friendly. What do you got for that one?
Man, I never thought I would say this because I always pictured Mexico as such a great team, especially in the World Cup. They always seem to do decently. But yeah, I think they're not going to be beating Ecuador this time. I think Ecuador is going to be running away with the win. Ecuador has played amazing in these last few months in the World Cup qualifiers. They're in fourth right now, even above Peru, with a guaranteed spot in the World Cup. And Mexico is out here struggling against Uruguay.
Right.
So if they're struggling this much against Uruguay, if they're playing another team that's similar in skill to them, then I think that Mexico is going to be losing 0-2 to Ecuador. So a 2-0 win for Ecuador.
Okay. And Seth, what do you got?
I am actually going to respectively disagree. I actually think Mexico is going to win this game 2-1 over Ecuador. Yes, they're currently struggling to Uruguay, but they were also one of the best teams in CONCACAF this year. And Ecuador was really good this year as well. But I just don't see Mexico losing back-to-back friendlies. Like, that's not like them. I think they're a very good team at rebounding. So I think they're gonna, they're gonna take this tough loss, but they're gonna come back strong against Ecuador, I think, and get a nice 2-1 win. But it won't be easy.
All right, Simone. Japan versus Brazil. Brazil just beat South Korea 5-1 in a friendly. Now they're facing Japan. What do you got?
I mean, it's funny that you say that because Brazil did beat them 5-1, but then Japan today also beat Paraguay 4-1 in a friendly.
Yeah, I was just going to mention that too, but you beat me to it.
Oh.
No, keep going.
Yeah, this is going to be very interesting. One of the best teams from Asia versus arguably the best team at the moment from South America.
Mm-hmm.
I'm extremely excited for this game, even though it's a friendly. I really can't tell because Japan has been playing extremely well. I feel like if it doesn't, it's most likely to go into a draw. I'm going to guess a 2-2 draw.
Yeah.
But it's going to be very hard to take these two teams apart from each other or have one get ahead of the other because they're pretty evenly matched for the most part. So yeah, 2-2 try.
All right.
Tie.
All right, appreciate it. Seth, Japan, Brazil, very intriguing.
Yeah, this game is one of the best friendlies there is. I mean, just like Simone said, this is going to be a very exciting friendly. I'm really looking forward to this one. Japan's just a fun team to watch. They really are. They're just a fun, cool team to watch. And they're good, too. They're actually good. And they're in a really tough group this year in the World Cup with Spain and Germany.
Oof. So
I think they got to prove themselves against these big teams. But you can't get much bigger than Brazil. Brazil's quality is just unbelievable.
Yeah.
But I think this is going to be a high-scoring game. I think this is going to be a really fun one. But I just think Brazil's quality is going to be a little too much. So I'm going to go, but it's going to be close though. It's going to be close. I'm going to go with a 3-2 win for Brazil.
Okay. Not bad at all. Last international friendly of the day and last matchup we're talking about on the podcast, South Korea versus Chile. Simone, what you got?
Chile is a team that's just been disappointing me lately. I remember back when they were one of the best teams in the world, or not world, but at least in South America.
Right.
That win against Argentina in the 2016 Copa America final. I was with you guys when we saw Messi miss that penalty.
That was something.
Back then, just a powerhouse, and back then I would say Chile any day of the week. But the thing is, right now they've been struggling. They're very low on the World Cup qualifiers. They didn't qualify. They're not even close to having qualified. But the thing is, South Korea isn't too hot either. If it doesn't go into a draw, I think it's just going to be a very close game. Not in an entertaining way either, just in a way that these teams don't really have much to give anymore. They're kind of blown out. So I'm going to guess a 1-0 win for Chile.
Okay. Seth, what do you got?
Yeah, I kind of agree with that. I think this is going to be a low-scoring game. I think Chile has been poor as of late, but they have some good talent still. They're still a decent team. And South Korea, I think, is going to want to prove something after getting blown out by Brazil, considering they are going to the World Cup. But I think Chile's still going to fight in this one. I think it's kind of evenly matched. Just like Simone said, I think if this was a few years ago, Chile would take this all day. But current Chile, not so much. So I'm going to go with a draw here. We're going to go 1-1.
Okay. And there we have it, guys. That is all the international friendlies. That is the World Cup qualifying, the UEFA Nations League, and the USA matches. All of that just recapped, analyzed, predicted by our two glorious soccer knowledgeable beasts, Seth and Simone, the S2 as you may know them as. I'm your host, Gabe Lerziak, and yeah, this has been the Squad Goals podcast. We will see you guys on Monday for episode 3 to recap even more games and to figure out who takes the Euro playoff spot in the World Cup. So that will be very exciting. Lots of great games to watch. And yeah, let's just go finish watching Mexico get blown up by Uruguay. See you guys very soon.
Have a good one.